Hello everyone, this is What If Fanfic and today I'll bring you What If Naruto was a Fūinjutsu Prodigy Part 3. The link to the story will be in the description. If you want to hear a fanfiction, please comment down below. Now on to the story.
4 Jounin sat in a dimly lit bar. One looks exhausted, one bored, one anticipatory, and the last looked quite youthful. The quad of notable Jounin sensei were all waiting for the guest of honor to arrive, but as said guest was delayed, they'd started the party early. All noticed how tired Asuma looked. Well, tired and frazzled, as if he'd been having a difficult last few days. Guy was the first to remark. "Your youthful flames need replenishing, Asuma." Asuma grimaced at Guy's booming voice but couldn't deny the observation. He wasn't feeling the least bit youthful. "I'll be fine, although if any of you is interested in trading kunoichi I'll gladly consider it." Kurenai frowned at Asuma's statement, having learned a little about Ino from Hinata. She was under the impression the Yamanaka heiress had been taking her training and vocation more seriously. She didn't get a chance to voice it, as Kakashi beat her to it. "What has Ino done? Naruto talks about her often and she doesn't seem all that bad. 5 days ago I would have agreed with you. She was just an eager Jinan wanting to learn new things and train to be better than the girls of her generation. What happened to change that?" "Well." The Sarutobi was surprised to see Ino there so early. She looked calm, ready but entirely too calm. He labeled it youthful overconfidence and didn't think too much more about it. The pair stood in silence after a brief greeting. Minutes passed and the boys were bordering on late. Asuma bit onto an unlit cigarette as he watched the final 2 members of his team arrive. He could tell something was off. Choji had a thin layer of sweat forming on his face and Shikamaru looked not just lazy but actually tired. He knew they weren't the hardest workers but they were both pretty fit for Jinan, so that confused him. Ino, however, remained composed as she stood across from them. "All right, this is a friendly spar, so no death blows and no maiming. Anything else is fair game. Any questions?" His students all shake their head in the negative, so he gives permission. "Then you can begin." "We quit," Shikamaru said, stopping Ino in her tracks. "What do you mean you quit? You haven't done anything yet," Asuma barked, truly disappointed in his shinobi. "I don't know how, but Ino poisoned us. I yawn can barely think and Choji is yawn already breathing heavy. This is too troublesome." Shika finished before he flopped on the ground with zero grace, Choji following right behind him. Asuma absorbed Shikamaru's words but couldn't fully comprehend them. He knew what each word meant separately but together. Ino didn't really poison her teammates to win a bet, did she? He turned to his lone kunoichi and saw her donning a large smile. "I did it, Asuma-sensei. I even understood the secret lesson." "Secret lesson?" he asked while quirking an eyebrow. "Yay. You wanted me to treat this as an assassination mission. That's why I had Shika's and Choji's moms poison them both and got blackmail material on Choji." Choji grimaced at that, but didn't have the energy to protest it. He'd live in fear later, he needed a nap. "What?" he yelled internally but said, "Good job, Ino." She nodded. Asuma was in the process of re-evaluating the Yamanaka. She wasn't afraid of hard work but her reasons were oft immature. He assumed her desire to learn his signature weapon was for similar reasons. And while he didn't mean for her to derive a deeper meaning from this that she had was impressive. That she would poison her teammates was concerning. That this change seemingly happened overnight was even more so. Asuma would spend the next hour talking to Ino as she undid all of her unused traps, from pitfalls meant to sprain ankles to tripwires that triggered all manner of projectiles. She even had explosives and flashbangs prepped. Once finished, he walked her through some beginner moves with his knuckle knives. They were a poor fit in her smaller hands but he resolved to have her measured for her own pair. A deal was a deal. She really had her teammates poisoned the night before a spar? Kurenai asked in mild disbelief. "Yep. To win a bet?" she pressed. "To complete a mission," Asuma corrected. She really looked underneath the underneath on that one. Wonder who could have put that in her head, Asuma mused while giving a pointed look at Kakashi. "I've never spoken to Ino a day in my life, Asuma." "Oh, not you. That blonde brat of yours." Ma. "Naruto-kun is far from a brat," Kakashi said with an eye smile. "You'll see, Asuma, he is the chosen one." "The chosen one for what?" Kurenai asked but Kakashi simply waved her off. Before she could speak again, Guy chimed in. Ino's flames of youth burned brightly. "Guy, take it down a notch or 12, Kakashi requested. "Sorry. Yay, whatever. Because of him, I now have to watch everything I say, worried Ino will get some hidden meaning I'm not actually communicating. It's all so troublesome." "You sound like your Nara," Kurenai pointed out. "What can I say, the kid has a point. You haven't long since gotten back, Kurenai. How was your mission? Dreadful. Sounds like there is a story there, Kakashi said and watched the Genjutsu mistress frown. 3 siblings tried to kill the others for their inheritance and fail, getting stranded in the process. We escort them back home where a 4th sibling, our actual client, accidentally kills the 3 murderous siblings with a crossbow. In his distress, the final sibling takes his life and the town rejoices as that money now goes to the public coffers. Shino actually laughed at the absurdity of it, and that was the most unsettling thing of all. Damn, Asuma said, but wouldn't get to expound as the lady of the hour had finally arrived. Anko Mitarashi walked into the bar, not in her usual attire. Instead, she wore a spaghetti-strapped black cocktail dress that stopped just above her knees with matching heels. Her hair was actually down and the torture expert was flashing a wide grin. You guys start without me? She questioned as she took a seat. Not really, though it is very Kakashi-like to invite us out and arrive late, Asuma observed. Sorry, I got held up but I'm here now, so let's celebrate, she exclaimed and watched Kakashi flash through several hand signs and flaring his chakra, causing a simple privacy barrier to emerge. Now, we can celebrate without any unkind ears listening in, ni? The copy ninja said. Yosh. We must allow our youthful flames to burn brightly for Anko's newfound freedom from that dastardly snake, Guy bellowed, causing everyone to wince. So loud, but he's right. Here's to Anko, finally being free of that cursed seal, Kurenai added. All raised their drinks for their friend. So Anko, how did you manage such a youthful accomplishment? Did Jiraiya-sama have a breakthrough? I think you know it wasn't Jiraiya-sama that removed this from me, Guy. It was Kakashi's brat, Anko said and saw Kurenai and Guy smile, one in fondness and the other in acknowledgement. Kakashi had no outward change but she knew how proud he was. She was surprised to see Asuma initially frown before covering it. Are you finally going to share how it happened? Kurenai asked. She'd known Anko had been free of the seal but the special jounin hadn't relayed any details, wanting to save it until her outing. Sure, but keep in mind I understand the Fūinjutsu about as well as Kakashi understands proper decorum. Ma, Anko-chan. I understand it perfectly well, I simply don't care. Sure, so it happened like this. Anko entered the Hokage's office, having been summoned, with no idea as to why. She didn't like having her interrogations interrupted but withheld any complaints as when the old man called you answered, no questions asked. She was not expecting to see 2 of the 3 Sannin and 2/3 of the Elders' Council present along with the Fūinjutsu Chibi. The atmosphere was tense, though none of the ninja present allowed it to be shown on their faces. Anko bowed, Hokage-sama she offered neutrally. Thank you for your prompt arrival, Anko-chan. I requested you here to inform you we are now able and ready to remove your seal, Hiruzen said with a kind smile. Anko allowed herself a small smile but no other show of the elation she was feeling. When can it be removed, Hokage-sama? Now, a decidedly younger voice said. Now? She asked in surprise but the blonde never took his eyes off the Hokage so she looked back at the village leader and saw him nod. Well, now seems to work. Is there anything she needs, Naruto-kun? To go home and shower, removing the natural oils of the skin helps the ink adhere to the skin. Also, a list of preferred foods and drink. Once you're ready just report to the same facility I initially reviewed your seal. And you're confident you can do this, Gaki? I will not fail, Naruto said, his eyes never leaving her own. She nodded and departed, thankful for the run home to help remove some of the giddiness she was experiencing. Anko took her shower, being thorough just to make sure nothing would go wrong. 30 minutes later she was entering the Anbu facility and saw the chibi outside the sealing chamber, informing her it was a clone and taking her food and drink order before disappearing into the tunnels. Once she entered the sealing chamber she saw various symbols drawn on the walls and one table awaiting her, along with the chibi and Tsunade-sama. Hey, what's Tsunade-sama doing here and where is Jiraiya-sama? While we are confident we know how the seal will react, we don't know how your body will. I am here to ensure any complications that arise can be seen to immediately. As for Jiraiya he is not needed. I have walked him and 2 other adept seal users through my designs and each have cleared its use. Would you like me to walk you through the process, Anko-chan? Yay, sure. The main array will consist of 3 layers. The first is to remove the independent consciousness, sending it to a pocket dimension that will implode with said consciousness. The second will siphon off that energy contained within the seal into an independent storage seal. Lastly, all other functions will be dismantled and the seal will be unraveled. Anko listened intently to Naruto's words, nodding along but something occurred to her. You said the main array, is there more? Yes. I will graft a partial, supplementary chakra circulatory system onto yours. It will be how the seals for the errant consciousness and the unstable energy will be removed. I also have developed seals that will keep your body still and relaxed. The calmer your chakra flow is, the easier this will be, and stillness will aid in that. Finally, Tsunade-sensei will use medical ninjutsu to anesthetize you, but if you should need to awaken immediately, I have a seal for that. Okay. That's a lot. But how did you manage it? We were alerted to a substance that can produce a special kind of chakra ink. It will make it possible to trigger the seal in a controlled way and ultimately remove it, Tsunade answered. Anko nodded at the small blonde again. What do I need to do? You have to remove your clothes so I can paint the seal, Naruto instructed, and then stepped out of the room. Why did he bother to leave? He's going to see it all anyway. Anko asked and watched the slug Sanin shrug. It's pretty standard at the hospital to give your patients some privacy. Being naked and getting undressed in front of someone can feel decidedly different. Oh, when he called you sensei? Yep, he's my student for the time being. Kid is going to give me a complex. I really need to up my training, Anko said, removing the last of her clothing. She was considered talented. It's what drew Orochimaru to her, but clearly, the blonde was operating on another level. Anko heard Tsunade knock on the door, a signal. Anko was undressed and the Uzumaki returned. He wasted no time drawing the seals on her, utilizing a team of clones. The ink felt cool against her skin. After about an hour she was lying on her back, drifting off, thanks to Tsunade's medical ninjutsu. Her last image being of unbelievably blue eyes looking into her own, not an ounce of apprehension or doubt to be seen. When Anko awoke, it was 5 hours later and her senses returned in sequence. First, she felt, and not how she expected to. She felt warm, intoxicatingly warm. And heavy, but that too was pleasurable. She thought she could just curl up and sleep forever, but her sense of smell came back and the aroma of Dengo called to her. Not even the promise of endless sleep could match the seductress known as Dengo. Next came sound as she could hear someone gently shifting around her. Finally, she opened her eyes, the bright light making her squint. Welcome back, Anko, Tsunade said. Did it work? Anko asked. She was alive, so the seals couldn't have completely failed, but that didn't mean she was free and her chakra felt too chaotic to check herself. Yes. Naruto removed the cursed seal. Anko willed the tears away from her eyes. She was internally joyous, but she refused to cry even in happiness. She'd wasted too many tears over her sensei and promised she'd never do it again, not even at the severance of their final bond. She hastily moved on from thinking about him. She no longer had to think about him at all. She was untethered. Unencumbered. Free. Her life was truly hers once again. Anko listened to Tsunade as she gave her a medical rundown. Apparently, it'd take a few days for her chakra system to settle, but once it did, she'd have her fully chakra capacity back, and outside of maybe needed to train her control again, there weren't any significant issues Anko would have to contend with. When Tsunade asked if Anko had any questions, she only had two. Where's the Gaki? I sent him home. Removing the natural energy from your system required your chakra and it be in near balance, but your reserves weren't large enough for that, so Naruto had to transfer some chakra to you. Transferring raw chakra to someone safely is incredibly taxing, even when he had a seal prepared to aid in the transfer. Once the cursed seal was removed, he was wiped and needed rest. I can't believe he did all of this for me, Anko said. Tsunade laughed, momentarily confusing Anko. I know it may not be obvious, but if you really get to know him, you'll find he's a very caring young man. He simply doesn't express it as most others would. He reminds me a lot of my great uncle. No offense, Tsunade-sama, but I was always told Nidaime-sama was emotionless. Oh, he could appear to be. But he also used to sneak me sweets behind Mito-ba-sama's back when I was little. People like that, they show they care by what they do. Why would he care about me? We'd only met once before Jiraiya-sama had him check my seal, and it was more confusing than anything. You'll have to ask him yourself. Now, is there anything else? Yay, why do I feel so warm and kinda weighed down? The effects of a jutsu? Tsunade snorted. Yay, Fūinjutsu. It's the blanket, it has weight and warming seals on it. He said you could keep it if you like it. I really do. Count yourself lucky, I'm still waiting on mine and I'm his flipping sensei, Tsunade said in annoyance. I did let him see my tits, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade gained a tick mark, wondering if the little pervert had bumped Anko to the front of the line for that very reason. And I've just been taking it easy for the last few days. But it's gone, it's really gone. That sick fuck was bested by a 12-year-old and it makes me smile every time I think about it, Anko concluded, causing Guy to shed manly tears of youth. Kakashi sat there, listening intently and realized Anko didn't know the whole story. If she had, I wonder how she'd feel about Naruto blackmailing a Sanin for her. Jiraiya, he recalled, was not amused at all by his godson's ploy nor the immediate response when confronted. "Where's Kushina's brat?" Jiraiya barked at Kakashi, confusing the copy ninja. Jiraiya looked genuinely angry, and that he referred to Naruto as Kushina's and not Minato's was a sign his favorite student did something. "I don't feel I can, in good conscience, lead you to my precious student when you're like this," Kakashi replied lazily and saw Jiraiya's facial features tighten. "The brat is threatening Icha, Kakashi, this is serious." And Jiraiya was right, this was serious. How could Kushina's son do that? How had he done it? Kakashi didn't care, he just needed to find Naruto and set things right, maybe levy some punishment for this grievous act. "Kushios no jutsu," Kakashi said, slapping his hand to the ground. Without ceremony, his entire Ninken pack was there, awaiting orders, not threatening his Icha. "Find Naruto, and once you do, one of you alert me," Kakashi ordered and watched his summons depart. "We'll set this straight, Jiraiya-sama, don't worry." "I'm not worried. I'm going to wring his little neck," Jiraiya replied and continued to mutter several more threats. 5 minutes later Bull returned, ready to lead Kakashi to the betrayer's location. They moved rapidly toward Naruto, arriving after a short commute, and watched as Kakashi's summons turned on him. The no-good mutts were lying on their backs, getting belly rubs from shadow clones as, he assumed, the original Naruto was speaking to Sai. Kakashi ignored the traitors as he dashed toward Naruto and lifted him up by the back of his jacket, the short blonde now dangling in Kakashi's grip as he faced his sense. "Hatake-sensei," he greeted. "Don't Hatake-sensei me, Naruto. Why have you threatened the Icha? Tell the truth and your punishment will be light." Naruto squinted and tilted his head until he saw Jiraiya approaching and realized Jiraiya snitched. "I required Jiraiya to act in a manner he would prefer not to, so I obtained leverage to coerce him." "What kind of leverage?" Kakashi asked, just starting to realize he hadn't known how Naruto was threatening the Icha. "I bought the publishing house that distributes the book series. I will not allow any future releases or reprintings of existing editions until I get what I need." Now, that threw Kakashi for a loop. It was damn impressive, and in almost any other situation he'd buy the kid a present for being a damn fine shinobi, but his most prized porn was on the line. Kakashi was torn, his pride as a sensei and his perversion were at war, and he didn't know what to do. He needed more information. "Naruto, what do you need from Jiraiya so desperately that you would go that far? Those who disobey the rules are trash, this is true, but those who abandon their comrades are less than trash." "Jiraiya was making me less than trash, Hatake-sensei." This threw Kakashi for a further loop, an additional loop? Loops abound, as Naruto wouldn't joke about those words or use them mindlessly. Kakashi wasn't sure Naruto could use any words mindlessly, but certainly not those. Kakashi dropped Naruto, allowing the Uzumaki to walk past him. "Have you come to be of assistance, Jiraiya of the Sannin?" Naruto asked, and all present could hear the slight recrimination in his voice. "I don't give in to blackmail, Naruto, not even for a worthy cause. You should have just been patient and trusted me." I don't," Naruto replied. "Excuse me? I don't trust you. How could you? And you don't trust me?" Naruto finished and watched an unknown expression form on Jiraiya's face. "Is that what you think? I don't trust you?" "Yes." Jiraiya appeared torn, starting to speak but stopping before any words formed. The Toad Sage sighed, realizing he might have alienated his godson with his inaction. "The toads have a special oil that conducts natural energy. I know a process to make it into ink." "And you've known the entire time?" Naruto asked. "Yes." Before Jiraiya had gotten the one-syllable word out completely, Naruto had already summoned his staff and was attempting to brain Jiraiya. Kakashi was too fast and grabbed the other end, lifting Naruto off the ground and robbing him of a majority of his power. "Please release my staff, Hatake-sensei." "No Kondo, Naruto-kun. You should hear Jiraiya out and not just attack him, that's very much unlike you." "I need not hear his justification, I already know. He prefers I not alter my seal, and realized this toad oil would be a means in which I could. To prevent me from achieving one goal, he forced Anko-chan to languish as I failed at another. Is this correct, Jiraiya of the Sannin?" "Yay, kid, that's it." Minato gave "I do not care." Jiraiya flinched as if struck by those words. "Seals either work or they do not work. Sentiment does not alter that reality, nor does it give you the right to tell me what I can do to my body. If what you do threatens the entire village, yes I do. You could weaken the seal, Naruto. And I would die. I am uninterested in death, therefore I have great motivation to make sure any additions or changes I made were thoroughly researched. If this were about the danger, you would have looked over my preliminary array, but you did not. Minato sacrificed. I do not care." "Well, I do, brat." He was like a son to me and I won't let you go mucking around in his final work because you think you can do better. The seal works as designed, and as long as I have your key I won't loosen it so you can make changes. I have already made another key, I do not need your permission. You do to get the toad oil, I'll make sure they won't supply you and I'll only give you enough for Anko's procedure. You could have always done that, me merely knowing of its existence doesn't mean I know how to procure it. I find your irrational behavior vexing and wish to no longer be in your company, Naruto said, resealing his staff and landing on the ground and turning to Kakashi. Hatake-sensei, I understand those books mean a lot to you and my threat to shelve them were only an opening gambit. I had other methods to gain compliance but they will not be necessary. As it is within my rights, I name you the editor of all Icha manuscripts until further notice. I request, in return, 2 Doten Jutsu of B rank. Sigh, I will see you soon but I find myself in need of solitude. Good day. Naruto didn't wait for any response, simply departing in a shunshine. That was a real dickless move, Sai said to Jiraiya and the Toad Sage sighed and departed, his shoulders slumped as he did. Hey Kakashi, you still with us? Anko asked. Ma, did you say something? He asked in response. So hip, Guy said and Anko merely snickered at the Cyclops. Anko, you never told us why you were late, Kurenai reminded her. Oh, I wanted to thank the Gaki as I hadn't seen him since he removed it. It seemed he was in the middle of a sleepover of sorts. I know I saw at least 3 girls in his apartment. Unseen by all was the last Hatake doing a small fist pump. He knew he had chosen wisely, Minato-sensei's son couldn't fail. The gentleman pervert was well on his way. Haku sleeps with me sometimes because she gets cold, Naruto said to his guests. Anko had spotted 3 but there were actually 4 girls in Naruto's apartment, Hinata, Ino, Haku, and Tenten. The first 3 were there to cheer up their friend as Haku informed the others about Naruto's argument with Jiraiya. Tenten was there, initially, because she was impressed with the seals Naruto provided his team which aided in their mission. The budding weapons mistress was unabashed in her desire to get some of that sweet Fūinjutsu. Since he had them present, Naruto asked their opinion on the mattresses and bedding he planned to provide for every bedroom in his furnished apartments. They all liked the mattress, a nice firm mattress that still had decent give and support. It was when Hinata asked about Naruto's inspiration for the heated and weighted blanket that he let it slip that Haku, sometimes, would share his bed. The Uzumaki assumed her bloodline simply made her run cold and Haku allowed him to think as much without ever truly confirming it. She just liked her Naru snuggles. Hinata noticed the slight changes in Haku's otherwise angelic facial expression and concluded the Yuki was full of it. Not one to come in second or be denied, she hastily called for a sleepover, rushing out with Ino to get some new sleepwear as well as inform her clan she would be visiting a friend for the night. She was lucky her father was out himself so she didn't have to answer too many questions, as was the same for Ino. The 2 heiresses were walking back to Naruto's apartment when Hinata had a minor realization. This could be considered an impromptu celebration of your win, Ino-chan. Yay, I guess so. I haven't done something like this since Sakura and I ended our friendship, Ino said with a hint of regret. There is time for you 2 to make up, Hinata reassured her. Besides, you need to show me the ropes, I've never done this before. The Yamanaka hated how not surprised she was by that. She had responsibilities and expectations as an heiress but not to the degree as Hinata, only worsened by her early shyness. She resolved to introduce her newest friend to a bit of youthful normality as spending the night at a friend's house was a rite of passage. Don't worry, Hinata-chan, I'll walk you through it. It's mostly just staying up too late, eating junk food and gossiping. I doubt I have much to gossip about, the Hyuga lamented. And we will certainly have to fix that, but what I want to know is who was that hot chick all up on your man and why was she so thankful to him? Hinata had a faint blush. Naruto-kun isn't my man, yet, we're just best friends. Oh, so you inviting yourself to stay over isn't an attempt to sleep in his bed like Haku has? Hinata adopted a stern visage and replied, it is below a Hyuga's pride to do such a thing, and then broke out in snickers when she saw Ino become momentarily horrified. Never use the Hyuga mask on me, that's scary. Sorry, Ino-chan, but I had to get you back for teasing me about Naruto-kun. The 2 kunoichi continued to chat as they reached their destination and were greeted by Haku, in a soft pink kimono. The Yuki also had 3 whisker marks drawn on each cheek and some bunny ears atop her head. Welcome back, Haku greeted as she ushered them in. As they entered they saw Tenten, having the same whisker marks and panda ears, talking to Naruto, wearing fennec fox ears, about something, though she sounded more pleading as she rocked the bowl of popcorn on her lap. Naruto was engaging, perfectly calm as he too had a bowl of goodies resting on his lap. Come on, Chibi, tell me where you got those restriction bead thingies. I made them, Ten-san, but they are still prototypes. I haven't submitted them to the village quartermaster yet. How good are you at Fūinjutsu? I do self-study, but it's slow going. When did you start? I started when I was 8 after Iruka-sensei introduced the topic at the academy. And how good are? Ten pressed. The blonde's teammate said he made those beads, though from Kakashi-sensei's reaction, the pinkette wasn't supposed to say it. Good for my age, Ten-san, Naruto answered and heard a series of snickers behind him. He turned to see his first two friends had returned. Hinata-chan, Ino-chan, you're back. You have to try this concoction. What did you call it, Ten-san? Puppy chow, and just Ten is fine, Naruto. Oh, okay, Ten. But this is incredibly delicious, and Ten didn't even measure anything, she just used her imprecise eyes, and yet the outcome was stellar. How are you so excited by this and not the tagless Fūinjutsu you use? Ten asked in exasperation, amusing the other girls in attendance. Those were pretty easy to make, honestly, and I've never had this puppy chow before. My Oji-san always recommended fruit when I wanted something sweet. What do you mean, easy? I looked at the seals, those were not standard and they were not painted on. Chakra etching is advanced, most sealing adepts never learn it, Ten said, voice becoming elevated at how obtuse the boy was being. Oh, they should, Naruto said in response, not realizing he was driving his guest mad. Ten, you should understand that sealing simply comes easily to Naruto-kun, so he doesn't understand how truly impressive some of the things he can do are, Hinata added, trying to placate the girl. Besides, achieving the proper ratio using your eyes is much harder. Tell me, Ten, how do you know how much peanut butter to chocolate to use?
I don't know, Naruto.
Practice? The Team 9 Kunoichi spoke to the boy, who seemed more enthralled with a simple party snack than any normal person should be. What's with the whiskers and animal ears? Ino asked, seeing a lull in the conversation. Haku chose to respond. Ten said that these types of things often have themes, and given Naruto-kun is hosting, I just thought it would be fun to mimic his adorable whisker marks. There are 2 more in the bedroom for when you get changed, and taking the hint, Hinata and Ino exited to the bedroom. The 2 return, each wearing camisoles, Hinata's lavender, and Ino's lilac, and black pajama pants. Hinata had a pair of cat ears atop her head while Ino had dog ears. Haku thought it'd be insulting to get pig ears. When they returned, Haku spoke, now that everyone is here and appropriately dressed. Ten grumbled at that as she was in a baggy shirt and shorts, the other girls making her feel a tad self-conscious about her appearance. What do we do? Well, Ino started, usually it would just be a lot of gossip about cute boys, though in the academy it was just Sasuke-kun. Just Sasuke? Asked Ten in disbelief and saw Ino nod. Honestly, it sounds creepy in retrospect, but I think him being a blank slate let us attribute whatever narrative we wanted. An ideal crush. Ah, a lot of girls were like that with Neji. He was last year's Prodigy graduate that all the girls fawned over. Even I had a bit of a crush on him. Had? What changed? Asked Haku. I'm around him all the time. He's talented and will be an amazing ninja one day, but he treats too many people around him like they are less than, including our teammate Lee. Cute looks and talent don't wash away being a jerk. If he ever resolves his crap, who knows, but for now the spell is broken. What about your other teammate, Lee? Inquired Ino. Ten chuckled, Lee tries harder than anyone you will ever meet. He gives his all at everything, including being a supportive teammate, and is a great friend. I just wish Guy-sensei would encourage Lee to be his own person and not a carbon copy of himself. Ten finished with a huff. What about you, Hinata? How's your team? Good. Shino-kun is really smart and level-headed, Kiba can be brash but keeps our spirits up. They both work well in teams, so we mesh really well together. Do you just see them as teammates, or is there some potential there? Ten asked. Before she could answer, Hinata noticed a certain blue-eyed Uzumaki was now giving her his full attention. She shook her head while replying, no. We'll be good friends, but I don't see either of them like that. She suppressed a giggle when Naruto returned to munching on the puppy chow. You're both lucky. My teammates are so unmotivated. I get it with Shikamaru, he understands everything so fast that it's nothing to move through life without much effort, but one day he's going to come up against something he can't understand or outthink. Choji is so passive and he lets Shika do his thinking for him. Worst of all, I got labeled a fangirl, so they dismiss me when I say we need to train more. So, now, I have to just kick their butts until they listen to me. What about you, Naruto-kun? He asked, wordlessly as his mouth was full. Tell us about your team, what do you think of them, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Naruto quickly swallowed and then began to stroke his chin in thought, we are not close as a team. The dynamic between Hatake-sensei and I is good and I enjoy his teachings and presence. Sasuke-san often seems bothered by me, but as he won't vocalize the issue nor how he feels, I cannot say what the exact problem is. Sakura-san can sometimes be quite amiable but other times seems upset with me, given she shouts at me, but I am unable to deduce a pattern and therefore a reason why. She also seems reluctant to defy Sasuke-san, which makes her distant during missions. We work well enough together, but we often require Hatake-sensei to unilaterally resolve disputes. There is no real synthesis between us and I often feel cold on the inside when in their presence for prolonged periods. I think I am the issue, but I do not know how I am the issue, so I can't help resolve it. I wish, like each of you, I could find friends in my teammates, but outside of Hatake-sensei, I doubt I will. All the girls frowned at Naruto's words, Hinata more than the rest. She admonished herself for not asking sooner, sometimes forgetting that simply because he does not complain doesn't mean nothing is bothering him. His team's dynamic is clearly off, the team lacking the bull-headed loud mouth she has in Kiba and Ino provides for her team. Instead, it seems each person just works around the others and does it long enough to complete missions. Not ideal, as when placing your life in the hands of others, this type of teamwork only has the appearance of professionalism, but it was an illusion. Once you make Chunin, you can change teams, Naruto-kun, Hinata said in response and saw a spark of something in his eyes. Do you think I could work with Sai? It's a possibility, Hinata answered. I would hate to leave Hatake-sensei, he has a lot left to teach me, but I think it would be enjoyable to work with an actual friend. We still haven't really hung out with Sai, Naruto-kun, Ino said. Oh, well, Haku has, but I'll try to arrange something. Maybe a training day and a picnic? That's what we normally do. I'd be up for it, Ino answered. I would like that as well, Hinata agreed. Tenten, I know we may not be friends yet, but you would be welcome to join us. Sure, some new training partners are always welcomed. And you can bring more puppy chow? Sure, Naruto, she said, rolling her eyes. And maybe you could add some peanuts? He pressed, ignoring the snickering of the other girls as none were used to seeing him like this. Yay, I mean in theory you can add anything you want, she said, waving her hand dismissively. Naruto's eyes widened slightly as he responded, you can? Yes, Tenten responded, laughing as it was simply too cute. The quintet continued to chat throughout the night, Naruto dismissing himself at one point to get the bedroom arranged. He returned 20 minutes later to inform his guests the sleeping area was set and all followed him back. None of the girls were expecting to see the sleeping bags they brought arranged as one sleeping apparatus, and they certainly didn't expect to see them levitating at equal height with Naruto's bed. This momentarily broke Tenten. Okay, you know what? No. Just cut the shit, Naruto. How? And why are none of you freaking out because this is borderline magic to me and I know seals, she asked as she frantically gestured to the floating, makeshift bed. It's Naruto-kun, Ino summarized with a shrug. She didn't get it and trying to would give her wrinkles, so why bother? She just chalked it up to Naruto-kun stuff and locked it in a box. Okay. I'm tired and you're doing things to my brain, but can you tell me how the sleeping bags are floating? Magnetic levitation, Naruto answered. Magnetic levitation? Tenten asked, unsure of the answer, and watched the Uzumaki nod. She wanted to press on but suspected that would only delay sleep, and she needed sleep as this apparent seal prodigy was going to drive her batty. Focused on Tenten's episode, Naruto hadn't realized there were 2 additional people in his bed. Haku being there didn't surprise him, but Hinata did. Hatake-sensei said a gentleman never assumes, so Naruto found it proper to ask, do you want me to sleep elsewhere, Hinata-chan? Of course not, the bed is big enough for all 3 of us, if Haku-chan doesn't mind sharing. Oh, I don't mind, Hinata-chan. Do you? It can be quite the adjustment, having to share what was once exclusively yours. No, I don't mind. Unless the person I'm sharing with is not doing so in good faith, then I use whatever means necessary to make sure sharing is never an issue again. Naruto didn't know why, but he felt their words had a deeper meaning than he was picking up, and their smiles were not regular smiles, but he shrugged it off as he wanted to get some sleep. After getting adjusted, the Uzumaki found himself sandwiched between Hinata-chan and Haku. Hinata-chan's back was pressed up against him and the girl would occasionally readjust, rubbing up against him in a way he didn't mind at all. Haku was behind him and periodically running her hands through his hair, which is something he enjoyed as well. He was a very content seal master at the moment. After everyone was settled, it was Ino that realized something obvious. Man, the lights are still on and I'm all comfy. Naruto, having no desire to move and having been forced out of bed to turn off the lights before, already had a solution. He clapped twice and the room went dark. What the shit, Tenten bellowed, her sanity fracturing. Whatever, good night. Good night, Ino repeated. Night, all, said the Yuki. Pleasant dreams, Hinata offered. Good night, Databayo. Naruto disliked alarm clocks. The noise, the bright, ugly display. He found waking up to one jarring but realized modern life did not allow one to simply awaken naturally. People had schedules to keep and things that needed to get done. He, as he often would, turned to Fūinjutsu to solve this dilemma. Naruto created a seal that would mimic the natural process of leaving sleep. The seal is set to a timer and initiates the process an hour before Naruto is to awaken. It was with the help of Tsunade-sensei and Shizune-senpai Naruto completed it, as the seal regulated brain chemistry and body temperature. And while they cleared the use for him, the two senior medics still wanted to run tests before they applied it to individuals without rapid healing abilities. The Uzumaki agreed, seeing the logic of their caution. While Naruto greatly preferred this method of waking up to the old way, one downside is the seal doesn't naturally adapt to sleepovers. So, at 4 o'clock, Naruto was awake and alert while his guests were still slumbering peacefully. If Haku slept over, it generally wasn't a problem as she held him in a loose grip. However, Hinata-chan must have turned around at some point as the Hyuga heiress clung to him rather tightly. Naruto reasoned she must have gotten cold last night. He didn't mind her holding him so intently, but it did make extracting himself rather difficult. As even she would admit, Hinata didn't do early mornings. Sleeping in and cinnamon rolls were two of the indulgences she'd allow herself. He didn't want to anger his friend or start her day off bad. A part of him wondered if he should simply stay. Haku had a soothing chill to her, like a sip of iced tea on a hot day. And Hinata-chan was soft. And they both smelled really good. Naruto frowned, slightly. He was not used to indecision of this nature. The right thing was clear. His Oji-san would say discipline is a discipline and good habits are forged over a lifetime but broken in a day. Getting up to begin his work was the correct path. But cool sips of iced tea as he laid on a soft blanket in a meadow of wildflowers tried to convince him otherwise. Naruto took a deep breath. He knew what he needed to do, but he would ask his Oji-san why he wavered, even if only briefly. Now, committed, Naruto moved on to figuring out how to get out of bed without waking up Hinata-chan. There wasn't anything around that could be used as a good replacement. Maybe if he could create a shadow clone and have it replace him. Naruto quickly dismissed that. He'd never done the jutsu seallessly, though he resolved to change that. He'd also never tried with another person and didn't know the effects of it. The Uzumaki was stuck, physically and mentally, but he didn't panic. Naruto broke his problem down into smaller sections. He needed Hinata-chan to release him without her waking up. He needed to exit the bed while accomplishing the same. Hinata-chan's embrace, then, was the first issue. Naruto thought for a moment before covering his left hand in medical chakra. The blonde reasoned that relaxing Hinata-chan's muscles would cause her grip to loosen and he could get loose. Slowly and gently Naruto ran his fingertips up and down Hinata-chan's back, adding a slight circular motion to the strokes as well. The Hyuga's grip did start to relax, as Naruto had predicted, but he was not prepared for the gentle moans that escaped her lips. He once again, briefly, wondered if he should simply stay before rejecting the idea. Quickly, one of Hinata-chan's arms moved to her side. Naruto swiftly ended his technique and then smoothly lifted himself up and over his best friend, whipping his leg over her just in time for her to roll over to Haku. He stood still for a moment, and when he saw she was still asleep he exited the bedroom. Making a clone to attend to breakfast, Naruto sat at his desk. He didn't get to do as much in-person Fūinjutsu work as his schedule was often full, but before his daily training, he liked to take time to create his agenda. His long-term goals were on hold until he learned the Hiraishin, but there were other projects he could tackle. First, Naruto was looking for ways to expand his offensive Fūinjutsu, and the idea he'd come up with is what he labeled emitter discs. The discs would be slightly larger than a shuriken with bladed edges containing seals to make chakra flow easier. In the center of the disc would be a housing, likely metal, containing a multifunction seal, allowing Naruto to make them explode, shock or concuss his targets. He had some other ideas as well, but fitting multiple fully functional and distinct arrays within one matrix was slightly difficult. He figured his clones would need most of the morning to complete it. The Uzumaki's next idea was about his business. Naruto had several ideas for the consumer market, but one problem was that civilians could not use chakra. Naruto had been thinking of how to make his products consumer-friendly, as while the seals can be activated without chakra, they still needed to be powered by it, and that initial charge would initially run out. Naruto considered several possibilities. He toyed with the idea of a chakra battery and a subscription service to recharge them, but squashed that idea, at least partially. Chakra was dangerous. Giving it to people who knew little about it was putting them at risk. Instead, Naruto considered how to have the seals be powered by electricity. The plans the seal master drew up would have an adapter that could recharge the products without having to ever plug them up. The seals simply drew from the charger when the products were low on power. Naruto even created plans to have adapters be designed for a set number of seals, as in not all adapters could seamlessly charge 10 distinct seals but some would. Naruto knew that there would be a consequence to this. Most directly it would increase the strain on Konoha's electric grid. Having considered that problem led Naruto to his third project. Infrastructure was always a prime target in hidden villages and security always a priority. Naruto wondered if a way to protect their power grid would be to make it so diffuse, simply no one could attack it in its entirety. Naruto wanted to create seals that could turn solar energy into electricity. Naruto got the idea from the natural energy in Anko-chan's seal and how the toad oil could channel it. If he could design such a seal, the resource would be renewable, and best yet is that said seals could be applied to the surrounding trees of Konoha's expansive forests, on the very buildings, or an apparatus designed specifically for that. Seals for battery storage could be applied so people didn't simply lose the power they didn't use, and the best thing of all, no one would really have to know where the real source of power came from. The old plants could remain, giving potential threats a target that wasn't as valuable as they assumed. Lastly, as he did every morning, Naruto wrote down Haku's lesson plan for the day. Her calligraphy was already good, so she'd likely be at a level to draw basic seals in a few weeks. She was also very smart, so she was understanding much of the introductory theory. Naruto did as his Oji-san advised and tried not to go too fast or confuse her with too much detail. It was hard, but Haku was really patient, so his clones did their best. With his plans drawn for today, Naruto sat at the table to eat a light breakfast of oatmeal with berries, 2 hard-boiled eggs, and some green tea. Naruto ate his meal in silence as the clone cleaned up. Once finished, Naruto slipped back into his room to grab a change of clothes, changing in the bathroom, and then departed for his workout. When he stepped outside, the air was brisk and he could see his breath. Naruto applied his resistance seals, slightly increasing the level from the day previous, and then took off. He raced across the rooftops, the wind rushing through his hair. Naruto enjoyed his morning runs. He'd enjoyed running since he was a boy. Moving faster and faster, changing levels as he moved from the center of the village to the training grounds. Being able to not think about anything but still aware, ready to react if need be. It was peaceful. Approaching rapidly, Naruto could see something in the distance. As he neared, he realized it was a person, and someone he hadn't expected to see. Naruto slowed into a light jog before stopping right before the individual. "Hatake-sensei," Naruto greeted. "Naruto-kun," he greeted back with an eye smile while putting his book away. "I wasn't sure to expect you given you had overnight guests. How was it, by the way?" "It was enjoyable. I bet 3 girls in your apartment really should be 4, Hatake-sensei." "There were 4, Naruto corrected. "Even better," Kakashi replied. "So, what are you doing here?" "Oh, I got lost on the road of life and thought I'd stay here just in case you came by. I believe I owe you some Doton jutsu, yes?" "Ah, yes. Good, now I'm going to amend our deal just a bit. One jutsu I'm going to teach you is C rank, but I have someone coming by to teach you another. The 2 I'm giving you will aid you in performing the third. As we hadn't reached an accord previously, I accept the amendment in good faith," Naruto said, holding out his hand. Kakashi shook it without a second thought. "Excellent. Now, create some clones and divide them into 2 groups, Kakashi ordered, then created a shadow clone of himself. Naruto followed suit, creating 9 shadow clones. "Alright, real Naruto and clone group 1 with me, I'll be teaching you the earth style, Earth Flow River, while my clone will teach group 2 the earth style, Tearing Earth Turning Palm," Kakashi informed the Chibi army. He performed the earth technique slowly, showing each hand sign with a pause and then describing how the chakra should be molded and channeled into the feet. The Narutos listened intently, and Kakashi felt he was being observed by his sensei again, blue eyes absorbing every detail, noting every flaw and planning for use in ways no one would ever expect. Kakashi simply watched as his student dedicated themselves, to the task of learning the 2 new jutsu. First, they each went through the hand signs, slowly but gradually speeding up. Next, they tried channeling chakra to it. Once they saw an effect, they tried to use more or less to see the impact. 45 minutes into the practice, the unnamed special guest finally arrived. "God, you really start this early every day, kid?" Jiraiya asked, approaching Kakashi and Naruto. Naruto squinted at the man. He didn't know how to feel about Jiraiya, as he'd never stayed mad at anyone, but he thought the man had been inconsiderate. Jiraiya saw Naruto's face and took it to mean his godson was still cross with him. "Hey, Before you lay into me, just let me talk, okay? Naruto nodded, not bothering to correct the man. I overreacted. You were right, I don't want you to adjust the seal. I am terrified if you do you will harm yourself in the village. I should have told you that instead of delaying your ability to remove Anko's seal. I'll talk to her later to apologize. Naruto nodded again, it was as he thought. The man was irrational. His Oji-san had explained sentimentality to him once, saying fondness or love can affect one's view of situations. Naruto asked if that meant emotions should be kept out of decision-making, and his Oji-san stated that was incorrect as well. He said it was not emotion in itself that was an enemy to rational thinking, but an inability to balance emotion against other considerations or facts. His Oji-san said humans were emotional beings, and to ignore that would be no more logical than ignoring the sky is blue. What will you be teaching me today? Naruto asked. So, we're good? Naruto tilted his head. He didn't know what the Sannin was expecting. Yes. Jiraiya speedily performed his hand signs and watched as the training ground became a mud pit. This is the Earth style, swamp of the underworld, Jiraiya announced, turning around to see 10 Naruto stroking their chins. I can put this to good use, the original said. Kakashi gave his student a thumbs up. Jiraiya wondered if he'd just resigned himself to being stuck in his own jutsu the next time he pissed the kid off. In his office, overlooking the training of his grandson, Hiruzen wondered if most of his ninjas simply lacked common sense. He'd instructed Jiraiya on how to make up with Naruto, telling the man to just be honest and straight with his godson, or if he can't, cut a deal. He certainly didn't say give a 12-year-old A-rank ninjutsu. But Jiraiya's overindulgence was really on a cherry atop his annoyance Sunday, as his Anbu commander, 2 advisors and Danzo were all in his office bothering him. The degree of annoyance was multiplied by them initiating a conversation that already had. Sandaime-sama, he's wasted as a Junin. He removed the cursed seal, something we all thought impossible. That has to be promotion worthy, his Anbu commander argued. The upper tiers of the village heard rumors of Naruto's sealing ability, but a lot of what would make a seal master gape in awe was simply too advanced for others. Many of his ninja found the Fūn bracelets neat, not understanding the true complexity of their creation. But when you do the impossible, even if it isn't understood how, people take notice. Even if it were, he would not be going into Anbu once he was Chunin. He will never be an Anbu, Hiruzen stated, firmly. The long-serving Hokage was willing to let Naruto chart his path, but as long as he held breath in his body he'd never allow his grandson to join the elite organization. According to Kakashi, he has the maturity and mindset for it. And with his sealing ability, his primary role could be of an instructor, only taking the occasional mission. The commander pushed back. Naruto-kun doesn't need to be in a situation that encourages him to repress his emotions. Anbu does just that. He is building bonds now. I won't have his progress stalled or undone. You are thinking as a grandfather, Hiruzen, not a Hokage. His skills could be put to better use and Team 7 could find someone else to better balance them, Koharu argued. Sasuke, Naruto, and even Kakashi were all VIPs as far as the village was concerned, and it irked Koharu they were all on one team. If something went wrong during a mission, the lost potential would be tremendous. Quickly and quietly promoting Naruto and then sending him elsewhere alleviated that concern. There was also another reason she wanted Naruto away from Team 7, but she'd keep that a secret for now. I am both of those things and many more. They are not hats I simply put on, Koharu. But what you don't seem to understand is I am thinking about the village and its best interests. Anbu is limiting by its nature. I take pride in all my agents, but they are not encouraged to interact with the world. Naruto's many developments are, at least partially, inspired him being able to do just that. Think of how many advancements we'd miss out on because he was in Anbu HQ or running Black Op missions. Maybe, there is a compromise to be made, Homura offered, as he was always the peacemaker of the foursome. It is the consensus that regardless of if you will or not, Naruto-kun is deserving of rank other than Junin. The Chunin exams are fast approaching, so it is understandable you'd want him to participate in them. It is also the case that the team is unbalanced. Maybe, while we assign a different Junin from the other teams to sub in with Team 7, we put Naruto-kun on a different team. One led by Jiraiya. And who would his teammates be? We can't just pull Junin from the reserves, Koharu pointed out, they'd still be unbalanced. Why? The former apprentice to the Demon of the Mist and Danzo student. They know Naruto-kun, both are closer to his overall skill level, in some areas eclipsing him. Neither will be put off by his rapid rate of growth nor his unique personality. Jiraiya could train them well, ensuring Naruto-kun's Chunin exam performance will be the showcase you want it to be, Homura put forward. Danzo? Hiruzen asked, wanting the former root commander's thoughts. If you aren't going to promote him or give him a new permanent team, then this is the next best option. Kakashi will make sure they can still function as a team for the exams. Fine, I'll inform Jiraiya later today. Now, is there anything else? The third Fire Shadow asked. I request desserts be returned to the Anbu dining hall, the commander said. Denied, Hiruzen answered, and the commander slumped in defeat. After training with Hatake-sensei and Jiraiya, Naruto headed straight for the hospital. He had a shift in Konoha's main clinic and could clean himself up in the staff locker room. Naruto slipped in unnoticed, showered and changed. He normally preferred to wear orange, but Ino-chan was insistent he could not wear orange every day, and Hinata-chan said the color made his patients on edge as orange signaled a warning of imminent danger. He compromised and was wearing navy blue pants and a hunter green, V-neck long-sleeve t-shirt. Naruto finished the outfit with a white lab coat. The first time Naruto wore that outfit in the hospital, the first time he attended to his studies and to patients without a henge, he caused a panic with the senior staff. No matter what biases they held, they simply couldn't unsee it. The miniature version of a legendary ninja that wore similar colors, had the same hair and eyes. Several long-serving medical ninja ran to Tsunade for confirmation. They did not expect to be in a closed-door session with Tsunade, the Sandaime, and a platoon of Anbu. The Hokage confirmed nothing but said if what they suspected were true, it would be an S-rank secret, and unknowingly sharing S-rank secrets could still get them executed. None of the staff dared inquire further. Naruto didn't know about the session, didn't know the effect his clothing choices had. He did see people looking at him with weird expressions, and when they caught him looking at them, instead of turning away, they smiled. They were also more talkative than he was used to, but he liked listening to people talk, so he didn't mind. Naruto checked in, letting the staff know he was ready to receive patients, and walked into his exam room. Clinic duties were, initially, very difficult for the Uzumaki. People often didn't describe their ailments well, didn't give him a full accounting for them, or often waited until he was about to dismiss them before telling him the real issue. Tsunade-sensei groaned about doorknob questions when he mentioned that last thing. She and Shizune instructed him on how to better put his patients at ease, as well as how to connect the dots, as often people seeking treatment didn't know what was or wasn't relevant. There had been minor progress, but he still had a long way to go. What was working in the young medic's favor was he simply didn't judge people for what others would find embarrassing. Because he didn't have to try to not feel shame, his patients didn't sense any condemnation coming from him. Naruto checked over his exam room, making sure everything was in place, and then simply waited. Soon she heard a knock at the door and watched as two familiar women entered. Blue eyes looked impassively at pale brown and ruby red. The eyes of both women widened, though for different reasons. Like the medical staff days previous, Anko had just put something together. Kurenai was simply embarrassed that Uzumaki-kun would be the one treating her. She really should have stayed in bed. 45 minutes before their arrival at the hospital, Kurenai awoke with a searing headache and pronounced feeling of nausea. The room was spinning, and she was sure if she'd try to move too fast she'd fall off the planet. It was clear, she'd overindulged again. Taking some deep breaths and fighting through her discomfort, Kurenai realized she was not in her bed, which means she was not in her home. The room didn't have any sense of tobacco or sandalwood, so she knew she couldn't be with Asuma. That left one person, and Kurenai hoped her friend wouldn't do what Kurenai knew she was going to do. This is your glorious wake-up call from the sexy and single Anko Mitarashi, sweet cheeks, Anko shouted, and then cackled when Kurenai winced in pain. Good, the snake mistress thought, her friend needed to learn not to drink so heavily. Kill me now, Kurenai pleaded, earning a softer laugh from Anko. Now, why would I do that? Mercy? PFFT, I ain't had that since my balls dropped. Anko, you don't have those. You're a lady, remember? Kurenai said, patronizingly. Anko-chan might be a damn fine woman, but she ain't never been no lady, dig it? Anko said, fist pumping in the air. Kurenai simply covered her head with the blanket, hoping Anko would go away and let her die in peaceful misery. The Genjutsu mistress knew she wouldn't be so fortunate when she felt the mattress sink slightly under the weight of Anko joining her. Anko, please leave me be, Kurenai pleaded. No can do, toots. I have one more day off and I want to spend it with my sister from another mister. Which means we have to get you dried out in a hurry. Fine, just let me get showered and borrow some clothes, Kurenai said, and Anko nodded vigorously, then stepped out of her bedroom. It was slow going, but Kurenai did manage to shower and change. Even made it to the hospital's clinic without losing her non-existent lunch. Being Jounin, they get seen a little faster and both welcome the preferential treatment, Kurenai most of all. That is until she walked in the exam room and saw Uzumaki-kun looking at her. How can I help you today? Naruto asked, causing each of the veteran kunoichi to realize they hadn't fully entered the room yet. Kurenai walked to the exam table, Anko grabbing a seat beside her. Kurenai-chan got overserved last night and needs help managing her hangover, Anko said. Kurenai shot her a dark look, but the special jounin merely shrugged. There are places that make alcohol consumption compulsory? I should alert OJ-san, this could be a public health risk, Naruto said, retrieving a drink from a cold storage unit. No, Uzumaki-kun, it was not compulsory. No one forced me, Anko was simply being colorful in her description. Naruto didn't turn around, but Kurenai heard a hum and took it as him understanding her. Once the blonde had all his items, he placed the drink down along with 2 tablets in a paper cup. The drink will cure the dehydration, the tablets will ease your headache. Are you still feeling slightly intoxicated, Yuhi-sensei? No, just nauseous, she replied. Naruto nodded and then performed 3 hand signs, causing his left hand to glow green. He placed it over Kurenai's midsection and the teammate sensei immediately felt her symptom alleviate. Kurenai smiled while saying, "Thank you, Uzumaki-kun." "You are welcome, Yuhi-sensei. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" Naruto asked and Kurenai shook her head no. Anko, however, had a question. "Hey, Chibi, if you can cure her nausea, why not her headache as well? One of the responsibilities of a medical ninja is tightly regulating how much chakra they suspend. I have no idea how many patients I will see before my shift is over, so some ailments I treat pharmacologically. As people rarely vomit due to headaches but do so quite often due to nausea, I felt it logical to see to the one that may require cleanup. That makes a lot of sense. One last question, do you know where either your sensei or Jiraiya are?" "The floating leaf hot springs," Naruto responded, and Anko grabbed Kurenai as she dashed out of the exam room, Kurenai barely having time to finish her nutrient-replenishing drink. Anko drugged Kurenai out of the hospital and then a hastily performed shunshine, residing just outside the hot springs. As Anko continued to lead Kurenai by the wrist, the red-eyed jounin finally had enough, breaking Anko's grip. "What is wrong with you, Anko? I think I know something about Chibi, but there are only a few people that can confirm it. Kakashi and Jiraiya would be on that list. Now, come on." Kurenai was tempted to refuse but let her curiosity override the impulse. Neither Jiraiya nor Kakashi were hard to find, the 2 hiding in some bushes, giggling like schoolgirls. "Yo, Kakashi!" Anko called out, getting the man's attention. He, along with Jiraiya, departed from the bush, both tensing as they expected a beating. Anko recognized the body language and scoffed. "I'm not here to beat your perverted asses, I have a question about your student." "Oh, which one?" "I have 3, Kakashi said with an eye smile. "The only one I would give 2 shits about, Hatake. Now, stop being funny and one of you throw up a privacy barrier." The Toad Sage looked at the dog summoner in brief confusion, but Jiraiya complied. "It should be safe to speak now, Anko-chan. What is it about Naruto?" "I'll cut to the chase, is he the Yondaime's S?" Anko didn't even get to finish as she had a kunai poking at her right lung, Kakashi's eye smile seeming more predatory now. Both kunoichi tensed, Kurenai still out of the loop. Ma, Anko-chan," Kakashi said as Jiraiya was palming his face. "Haim needs to make that kid change his damn hospital uniform," Jiraiya grumbled. Kurenai, still slightly addled, was trying her best to figure out what was happening. It took her a few moments of deep concentration, the fog of the hangover a real impediment, before she came to the conclusion Anko had and gasped. "No, that's Kurenai didn't finish her thought or couldn't, she had too many running through her mind. She wondered how different he would be if people had known, or if he would have even survived long enough for it to matter. Is that why he was able to remove Orochimaru's seal from me?" Anko asked as Kakashi finally removed the kunai from her. "I can't answer that. I have no idea how much of his sealing talent is epigenetic or a consequence of his condition or whatever. You two have stumbled upon what is quickly becoming the second worst kept secret of the village," Jiraiya said, annoyance clear in his tone. "We knew it would happen one day, we can't stop him growing nor outlaw him from wearing Konoha's colors," Kakashi said. He'd been okay with sending the hospital staff on a long vacation, but the Sandaime vehemently refused. Kakashi understood, but 2 people can only keep a secret if one of them is dead. It would soon spread that Naruto was obviously the son of Minato-sensei. "I know, damn it. I was counting on the villagers and ninja continuing that impressive streak of sincere stupidity to protect him." "Hey," Anko shouted in protest but clammed up at Jiraiya's hard look. "You've seen the kid several times. He literally removed a nearly impossible to remove seal from you, and you only noticed the resemblance because the gaki was almost literally in a Yondaime Hokage costume," Jiraiya argued, and neither kunoichi could disagree. Things were silent for almost a minute before Kurenai chimed in. "Well, Hinata-chan certainly has good taste," Kurenai said with a giggle, breaking the tension within the foursome. "Hinata-chan?" Ino asked, sleepily from Naruto's bed. "Yes, Ino-chan?" Hinata replied from the same location. "Can we just stay here? For forever?" Ino asked, and the Yamanaka wasn't sure if she was joking or not. She hadn't spent a great deal of time in Naruto's apartment, and certainly never overnight. She had no idea how insanely comfortable and accommodating the place was. Self-heating towels, heated floors. High thread count sheets that smelled of citrus and warming spices. Oh, and best yet? A clone that'll cook for you and pick up after you and could probably totally kick ass if need be. "I'm not sure your father, clan, nor Naruto-kun could allow that, Ino-chan." "Oh. Then I may have to steal him from you." "Sorry in advance," Ino replied. "But what about your dear Sasuke-kun? Would you so callously abandon him for a little comfort? That would be shallow, wouldn't it?" "Very," the Hyuga heiress replied. "Well, what about all that work I've put in? What other boys around our age know how to shop with a woman? Or will let her pick out clothes for him without complaint? Or can dance? I've put in a lot of work here. And I thank you," Hinata said, but Ino was too deep into her musings to pay it any mind. "He's going to be a doctor, who doesn't want to date a doctor? You're getting lost in the thread count, Ino-chan. Come back to me, back to reality." Both girls laughed at Hinata's call. Fine. I'm back. Besides, you're right, my heart is with Sasuke-kun. It just sucks. I've liked him for so long. I've been friends with Shikamaru and Choji for years, and I think Naruto-kun has paid more attention to me the few months we've been friends than any of the others. Give it time, Ino-chan. I'm sure Sasuke-kun will notice you eventually," Hinata said. "Yay, I won't lose to forehead," Ino exclaimed. "Indeed. Then, I'll steal you away from him." "Yay. Wait, what?" "It is fate, Ino-chan. You cannot fight fate," Hinata said as she began to tickle Ino relentlessly. The Yamanaka heiress tried to fight her friend off, but her counters were ineffectual. It was not Ino's pleading that stopped Hinata's assault, but the loud thud they heard from outside the bedroom. Both were up and out of the bedroom in speeds befitting their rank. When they entered the main room, they saw Tenten with her head on the table and a clone Naruto rubbing her back. "What's wrong, Tenten-chan?" Hinata asked in concern. "Oh, just a technique I spent months learning and perfecting. Naruto improves it in like 5 minutes. She said she'd make more puppy chow if I did," the clone added, while the other clones, all reading books on electrical engineering, but nodded in agreement. "Oh, what did you do, Naruto-kun?" Ino asked, and Naruto looked at Tenten as if requesting permission. The Team 9 Kunoichi nodded, and Naruto briefly described the original technique before going into his improvements. "So with just a few additional components, the projectiles can hone in on a specific chakra signature for a short duration and distance." "I didn't know you could do something like that," Ino said. "Well, chakra signature recording isn't new, and it was only a few steps from making an object track said signature. Pretty straightforward," the clone said, and Tenten had to fight the urge to grab at her hair while shouting if it were so freaking simple she'd done it already. But she was going to follow Ino's advice and put it in a mental box labeled Naruto things. The trio of Kunoichi continued to talk about things as the Naruto clones studied until they were interrupted by a knock at the door. One clone opened it to see someone he would not have expected. "Hello, Mizuki-san," the clone said. "I believe you mean Mizuki-sensei, Uzumaki," the Chunin said frostily. "No, I neither like nor respect you enough for that. What can I do for you?" Mizuki sneered at the little demon's response, repressing the urge to strike him. "It's about Konohamaru," Mizuki started, and then subconsciously took a step back when the demon approached him. "Has he been harmed?" the demon said, trying to fake a showing of concern. "I will explain on the way, come with me now. I am a clone. I will alert the original and he will meet you at the academy, where a full accounting of events will need to be provided without delay." The sentence ended with the closing of the door, and Mizuki bit back several curses as he returned to the academy. What Mizuki hadn't noticed were the steely gazes of the Kunoichi within Naruto's apartment, nor the cruel smile of the Yuki observing from above. Back at the hospital, the original received the memories of the dispelled clone. He created one to stay at the hospital while informing the check-in station of his need to leave. The attendant gave him permission, and Naruto shunshined to the academy, entering with due haste. He arrived at Iruka-sensei's classroom and saw Konohamaru and 3 other boys, each having visibly been in a fight. Naruto marched over to Konohamaru, not even acknowledging Iruka-sensei, tending to his little brother's busted lip. "Please explain," Naruto said to no one in particular. "Konohamaru-kun got into a fight," Iruka said, and felt dumb when Naruto simply looked at him as to remind the academy instructor that was quite obvious. I don't know why, but Konohamaru threw the first punch. He's refused to say why, however fighting like this is unacceptable. What happened, Kono-chan? Naruto asked, and Konohamaru looked down, averting Naruto's gaze. Kono-chan, I am not upset, but I require the details. They called you some names, Ni-chan, so I kicked their butts, core. Konohamaru, what could they have said to make you want to fight? Asked Iruka-sensei. They called Ni-chan a retard, said their parents called him that all the time. Maybe I can't fight their parents, but I'll bust those losers up, Konohamaru said. The three boys flinched when Iruka-sensei sent them a hard glare. We don't use language like that in this academy, and we don't disrespect shinobi of this village that are trusted to protect it with their lives. You boys understand me? The Chunin asked and received a trio of affirmative responses. Konohamaru, I understand why you would be upset, but fighting wasn't the way to go. I agree, Naruto stated, and Iruka-sensei smiled at Naruto being responsible. They had superior numbers and witnesses. If you need to punish them for their words, there were superior methods. A disinformation campaign that made them pariahs would be emotionally devastating, and if conducted correctly would be hard to trace back to you. A minor poison administered over several weeks that made them lose control over their bowels was a viable option, Naruto said, stroking his chin. Iruka-sensei was mortified, especially since he couldn't correct his former student. Those were all tried and true ninja tactics, and he couldn't speak out against them. I don't know poisons yet, Ni-chan. We'll work on that. Instead, a series of escalating pranks would have sufficed. Or, at the very least, wait to attack when you had the advantage. I won, so I must have had the advantage. Yes, but I bet you worked harder and took more damage than you had too. What about Moegi-chan and Udon? I told them to stay out of it, Konohamaru said, and smiled when he saw his brother nod in acknowledgement. Good instincts, you protected your team, but next time bring them in, plan ahead instead of just reacting and leave no evidence. Iruka-sensei can't punish you because he expects you've done something, and if he ever tries, I'll put him in a scroll like I did Ebisu-san, Naruto said as he ran his fingers through Kono-chan's hair. Iruka-sensei wasn't thrilled by that threat, but the Sarutobi smiled, knowing his big brother wasn't really like this with anyone else. Before our movie night, we're going to be training. I have my doubts you're prepared to fight multiple enemies at once. Hi. If there is nothing else, I need to return to the hospital, Naruto said to Iruka-sensei. The man replied in the negative and let his former, and oddly favorite, student go while smiling fondly. Naruto exited the academy building, but instead of going back to the hospital, he made a detour to the Hokage Tower. His timing was fortunate as he gained entrance to see his Oji-san without delay. Hello, Naruto-kun. What can I do for you today? Hello, Oji-san. I cannot stay long, but I have something to inform you about and a question, Naruto said. Please continue, Hiruzen encouraged. Kono-chan got into a fight at the academy. Apparently, some boys were calling me names and Kono-chan defend me. Do not worry, I lectured him about the more appropriate methods of responding to such a situation. Like telling Iruka? Hiruzen asked/hoped. Like subterfuge and psychological warfare or guerrilla tactics. I did not believe it acceptable to make Iruka-sensei his agent in a retaliatory effort, Oji-san. No, of course not. I was being silly, Hiruzen replied with a sliver of amusement. What will you do in response? I will begin training him to fight multiple parties at once before our movie night. That seems appropriate. Make sure you drill him on minding his surroundings, he still struggles with that, Hiruzen added. Naruto nodded, so the Sandaime continued, Okay, now what is your question? Is it usual to not want to leave your bed if you have two women in it? Hinata-chan and Haku were in bed with me and I almost delayed my schedule because of it, the blonde informed the Hokage. Hiruzen had a tick mark and muttered something about lucky little brats before answering, I wouldn't know, Naruto-kun. That response surprised Naruto, as he was sure his Oji-san knew almost everything he'd come to experience in his life. Could you try it and let me know? Naruto asked, and Hiruzen's tick mark grew as he heard the muffled snickers of his Anbu guard. If I find two willing women, you will be the first person I tell. Thank you, Oji-san. I have to return to the hospital, but I will see you later. Of course, Naruto-kun. Have an excellent day, he bid his grandson. When the blonde left, Hiruzen had to endure the laughter of his guards, but the professor would have the last laugh as he said, just for that, you will all be my sparring partners for the weekend. No one but the old man was laughing after that. Hiruzen loved his surrogate grandson as if he were truly his own, often that the little blonde was not slipped the Hokage's mind. But there were days when he got a swift reminder that regardless of his condition, Naruto was the child of Minato and Kushina. Only their progeny could cause him such grief without trying, hell, without even being in the village. Jiraiya and Kakashi had both taken their new arrangements well, each man understanding this was the best for the members of Team 7. After a 2-week period of intensive training, the new Team Jiraiya had left the village and would be gone until a month before the Chunin exams. Knowing he'd be gone, Naruto focused his clones on projects that could have an immediate turnaround. Hiruzen was delighted at the idea of using the trees surrounding the village as their power grid. The Shinobi Corps of Engineers absolutely loved the idea and begged Hiruzen to assign Naruto to them. He, of course, declined and watched as some of the smartest ninja in his village pouted and then buried him in forms to begin retrofitting the various buildings within Konoha. The undertaking, dubbed Project LEAF, Light Energy Absorption Field, was underway. The SEAL team and barrier squads would be applying them to the surrounding forests for the next few weeks, but final activation would wait until Naruto came back to check the work. The extra paperwork, while he hated it, Hiruzen could ultimately deal with. It was one of the few ways a shinobi could push back against him to express their displeasure without risking any true, painful, violent, permanent consequence, though the Hokage would drop their budget by 3% in the next fiscal year in retaliation. If it had stopped there, Hiruzen would count his blessings, but it had not. Naruto had even managed to anger Konohamaru's mother, Kana, though many would know her as Anbu Saru. Kana, too, had great affection for Naruto but had little time to spend with him or her own son, as her Anbu duties required she be gone frequently. She encouraged the bond between Kono and Naruto, as she knew it helped her son deal with her long absences. Hiruzen was aware of this, so he was initially confused when Kana came to speak to him in his office. "Why did Naruto teach my baby the first stage of the silent killing technique?" Kana had asked, and Hiruzen facepalmed. Kana went at length about how Kono-chan was bragging that his Niikin taught him a cool new game of tag and how he could disappear in a crowd now. Her concern wasn't so much what Naruto had started to teach Kono-chan. It was that him practicing it in the middle of the village was making people nervous that a pint-sized assassin kept showing up behind them. Hiruzen promised he'd speak to Kono-chan while also telling Ebisu to keep a better watch of his charge. He was paying the man good money to do so. But those headaches paled in comparison to his volatile student. Tsunade had gotten back into surgery, overcoming a significant hurdle in her recovery, and was genuinely excited to practice medicine again. As she'd returned to her element, she wanted to fully immerse her newest student, but the temporary team switch complicated matters. His in-person hours at the hospital dwindled and he'd only gotten the bare-bones basics of field surgery, managing to learn the mystic palm and chakra scalpels. As his student glared at him, her foot tapping impatiently, and sending slight tremors through his office, Hiruzen grew tired of her petulance. "If anything, Tsunade-chan, I should be mad at you," Hiruzen bit out. "What the hell did I do? I steal your student and give him to a moronic pervert?" The last Senju question, hands on her hips. "No, you just allowed an S-rank secret to be uncovered under your watch," the Sandaime answered. "I was gone by the time Minato was an adult. Do you think I kept up with his preferred attire? Was I a member of some fan club no one told me about? Did I hang his pictures up on my wall and swoon? Also, I didn't pick Naruto's clothes, his little blonde girlfriend did that. You could have suggested a change since then. Maybe sensei, but you have to weigh the potential harm done versus the potential harm avoided." "What are you talking about?" Hiruzen asked in confusion. "Well, sure, Naruto's secret is out or whatever. Maybe Iwa tries something. But what you have now is a hospital staff that is treating him like a colleague. They even banter around the water cooler, though he mostly just listens. Because the staff treats him well, the patients are more likely to follow suit. Which means I haven't had to brutally murder anyone or get the hospital walls all messy. See? Cost and benefits, sensei. Cost. And benefits," Tsunade finished, and to Hiruzen's amazement, his lone kunoichi student really thought her argument wasn't one of a psychopath. "You can't leverage the harm you would, and could wholly decide not to, do against other risks. That's madness. Madness or not, it's the truth. Now, maybe you can tell me how I'm supposed to achieve these breakthroughs you expect of me if my collaborator isn't here to aid me. That is why you called me back, remember? He'll be back for the exams. And be busy taking the exams, and after he takes them, then what? Jiraiya likes to go on long training trips. What am I supposed to do then?" "Well, about that. You know, I'm not getting any younger and I have retired once already," Hiruzen started. Tsunade became mortified and fled the Hokage's office, reasoning if she didn't hear the proposal then it didn't count. Hiruzen wasn't offended by her prompt exit, having planned for it. "Sucker," he muttered through his chuckles. He knew neither of his students wanted the hat, though one would have to take it. It was time for some new blood to lead the village. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the village, Asumo was diligently training Team 10. "Well, one member of Team 10. His lone kunoichi had just recently received her knuckle knives, but she was dedicated to learning to wield them. Asuma was not at all reluctant to admit he'd been wrong in initially denying Ino tutelage in his signature weapon. It seemed she'd matured overnight, and whereas he thought it'd be a pain to have an overeager Jinan constantly searching his words for deeper meaning, and offing someone's pet because of it, the Yamanaka had proven better than that. Not obsessive, just intentive. Remember, Ino, your build will never be like mine. In and out, constantly changing distance will be your style. Set up your slashes with kicks, change levels and have no set pattern, he instructed as she struck a training dummy. Hi, sensei, she responded before getting back to work. Asuma walked toward his other two students, the sound of thuds a soundtrack to his travel. You two need to get up and get moving, Asuma said. Ino is displaying more effort than both of you put together, and that ends now. Choji, I want you to run 10 laps around the training ground and then up and down one tree. Do that 10 times and then come back. The chubby Akamiki grumbled but did as he was told. If Asuma could credit the air with anything, the boy knew how to follow orders. He then turned to the Nara, the one he'd assumed would be the leader of his team. His faith in that designation was starting to waver a bit. As for you, Shikamaru, we're going to work on your stamina, chakra reserves, and strategic abilities. How? Very simple, you are going to try to catch me with your shadow possession jutsu. Once you do, you must keep me restrained for 3 minutes. For however long you fall short of that goal, that time gets added to your next attempt. Troublesome, the Nara complained. Make it 3.5 minutes, Shikamaru, Asuma amended and shot his student a look, daring him to complain some more. The boy, smartly, did not. He, instead, selected to follow Asuma into the clearing. Soon, Asuma called a start to their game of catch and release as the elite ninja gave the Nara a workout he wouldn't forget. In a nearby training field, another Jounin sensei overlooks her team as they train diligently. Kurenai had already run her team through the day's tracking exercises, drilled them on chakra control. Now was taijutsu sparring and then missions. The red-eyed beauty watched as her most brash student engaged her, once, most shy one. It was not going well for the Inuzuka. 2 palms, Hinata exclaimed, Byakugan active and the 2-finger jabs landing swiftly. 4 palms, she said as the strikes came faster, speed enhanced by her natural grace. 8 palms, and Kiba felt each of them. 16 palms, the Hyuga heiress yelled as she dispatched the Ninken user, his body making a disconcerting thud as he hit the ground. Yay! I'm the princess of Juuken and you better deal with it, Hinata said in triumph. In reward, today's special guest greeted her and she picked him up and cuddled him without hesitation. Did you see that chappie-kun? Next time he won't let Akamaru-kun pick on you, will he? Kiba simply groaned while he remained on the ground. He didn't tell Akamaru to do anything to the damn rabbit, but he is a dog. A special, chakra-using, well-trained dog, but still a dog. Kiba would be unwise to dull those instincts, so Akamaru chased the damn critter around for a bit. It was all in good fun, Kiba thought. Clearly, his teammate reached a different conclusion. The pain in his body was subsiding, enough for him to gather his wits once more. He took a breath before speaking. I know you only call out the number of the strikes to be a dick, Hinata. A smile was Hinata's only response. I think that's enough taijutsu for today, but what have we learned? I need to increase my speed and evasion techniques, Shino said. He was not the strongest in close-quarter combat, so being able to create distance was vital for him. Kurenai nodded, figuring her most analytical student would come to that conclusion. We'll work on your countering, Shino, but you're improving, so keep that in mind. What about you two? I could be more aggressive, Hinata said. Yes. It's a fine line, and as you face better opponents they won't offer obvious gaps. Sometimes you have to create your own offense. I know with your bloodline it may not seem that way, but it's better to get in the habit. However, when you do go on the offensive you are quite efficient. Efficient, she says, Kiba said in a raised voice. How about cruel and sadistic? Now Kiba. Sure, Hinata could have stopped her assault at 8 palms, she could have also gone to 32. You have to stop being overly aggressive. Overwhelming force is like any other technique, without control it will be easily evaded or turned on you. We'll work on helping you to set things up and get you better at fighting without Akamaru, Kurenai explained. Now, let's go do some missions, Kiba grumbled but joined the rest of his team as they departed the training grounds for a thrilling day of chores. Lastly, in another training field, Konoha's most youthful beast was joyously engaging his lone kunoichi. Something had changed with Tenten-chan, Guy noticed. It wasn't major or even concerning, but she seemed to be pushing herself a little harder, studying her Fūinjutsu a little more diligently and even practicing her taijutsu in earnest. She also seemed slightly frazzled, as if some part of her worldview had been torn asunder. The Jounin considered all of this as he dodged the projectiles aimed at him. The taijutsu made it look easy, but he marveled at the improvements of Tenten's signature jutsu. And while supportive and encouraging, Guy would admit to enjoying her reaction when not a single weapon managed to even graze him. "Damn it all," Tenten exclaimed, plopping down onto the grass. "Yosh. Do not get discouraged, Tenten-chan, your efficiency with that technique improves constantly," Guy said, giving her a thumbs up. His bright smile earning a small one from her in response. "I must admit, Tenten, your technique has indeed improved. How did you manage to make the projectiles follow the target?" Neji asked. "I had some help with the Fūinjutsu. The additional seals allow me to hone onto specific targets." "That is most fascinating, indeed. Who provided this most youthful help, Tenten-chan?" Lee inquired with great enthusiasm. "Naruto," the weapon mistress replied. "My failure of a cousin's friend? You shouldn't associate with people like him, Tenten. He'll drag you down," Neji cautioned, which annoyed his fellow teammates. "You don't know what you're talking about, and since we won't agree, let's just leave it there." Neji was slightly taken aback by Tenten's response. She had never spoken to him like that, and while he respected her, he wouldn't have his beliefs questioned nor suffer disrespect from anyone. His righteous tirade killed in its conception as his other teammate, the fated failure of Team 9, butted in. "Naruto-kun is most youthful, Neji. I believe you two could be friends if you could only get past your dislike. He is a bit hip and cool, but neither require an active disdain of him. He just needs to truly bear witness to the flames of youth, Yosh." "Well said, Lee. And since you have so much energy, time for a team spar. All of you against me. Let's get to it," Guy ordered, adopting his nice guy pose. Neji's annoyance with his teammates was quickly put on the back burner. Fighting with his sensei was never easy and required his full attention. Kabuto sat his cargo down roughly, hoping to cause every bit of discomfort he could manage. If he had his choice, he'd have drugged the boy down to his lab and begun experimentations immediately, if for no other reason than the frustration and aggravation he'd caused the longtime spy. His master's laughter only agitated him further, but he knew never to glare at Orochimaru-sama. "Kukaku, no need to be so inconsiderate to our new friend, Kabuto-kun. He is my honored guest and will be treated as such," Orochimaru warned, taking great delight in Kabuto's appearance. His clothes signed, cut, and dirty. It was clear his second-in-command had experienced a tougher fight than he'd initially anticipated, and it was further proof the Snake Sanin was correct in his estimation. "Now, take that gag off and undo those restraints. He wouldn't be foolish enough to attack me. Right, Naruto-kun?" Kabuto did as he was told, expecting the blonde to offer some manner of resistance, but was surprised when that did not happen. The Jinan simply rubbed his wrists to alleviate some of the soreness of having been tied up, but said nothing and made no attempt to flee. It was almost as if he didn't care who was sitting at the table across from him. The auto medic adjusted his glasses, a tell of his current emotional state. Naruto surveyed the room. There was one visible exit to his left, and he was currently separated from the Sanin by a long dining room table. The room was well lit, lights hung above and candles decorated the stone walls. "Kabuto-kun, please go retrieve dinner," Orochimaru requested. "Hi," the Silverate answered and complied. "Now, we may be introduced properly. Hello, Naruto-kun. I am Orochimaru, thank you for gracing me with your presence." Naruto looked at the man, his Oji-san's traitorous student. He wasn't a guest as he was kidnapped, but it was clear the man wanted to play at this being a social call. He needed to prolong things, so the Uzumaki decided to indulge. "Thank you for your invitation. You are quite welcome. Now, I am sure you are curious as to why I had Kabuto-kun and the Sound 4 provide such a forceful invite, yes?" Naruto nodded. "That is a bit of a story. See, when Kabuto-kun informed me that the village was undergoing some serious overhauls in security and there was a new Fūinjutsu-enabled device all the senior ninja were receiving, I was of course curious. Did Jiraiya have a late-period burst of genius, or was there a new Fūinjutsu user on the scene?" Orochimaru stopped as Kabuto returned. It was to my utter surprise that Kabuto-kun failed to procure one of those devices. He couldn't even break into the manufacturer's facility. With the dragnet in the village and everything else, he had to return home empty-handed. Chastened and humiliated in his defeat. It was quite shameful. Even more so that he had no idea who this potential seal master could be, Orochimaru mocked. The medic sat the bowl of tonkotsu ramen in front of Naruto, trying his best not to shatter the bowl. Orochimaru merely smiled at his subordinate's anger. Naruto took up his porcelain spoon, letting a small amount of the ramen broth flow into it. Before taking the warm liquid into his mouth, The Uzumaki activated a minor medical ninjutsu. It allowed for the detection of poisons via the tongue. He detected none. With his free hand, he picked up his chopsticks and began eating in earnest. I do hope you enjoy. I recall ramen being a favorite dish of your parents, Orochimaru observed. The Uzumaki hummed. It was clear the Sannin was prodding him to see if he knew about his parents and if the information could be a way to manipulate him. The ramen is quite good, the Jinan offered. Orochimaru laughed. The boy was cold as ice. Now, as I was saying, I'm now presented with this mystery and had little to go on. So frustrating, not to know. But luckily a foolish toad brought me all I needed, Orochimaru said, incredibly pleased with himself. He took up a remote and a multi-panel screen turned on, showing various snippets of Team Jiraiya's raid on the Snake Sannin's base. Most of the footage was of Naruto. To be able to apply seals via chakra alone is a master-level ability, and here you do it with several different arrays. My poor ninja, they didn't know what to do. They were not looking for the Sannin nor his minions when they entered the base. A nearby town had been experiencing a rash of abductions and Jiraiya was tasked with figuring it out. The infiltration had gone well, but one of the abductees triggered an alarm as they were leaving, forcing the team to fight their way out. Next, we see you erecting a barrier to trap some more of my men, leaving them to the designs of that inked beast. And lastly, we have you using that special shuriken to behead one of my prized experiments. The half-stone, berserker beast was not easily put down, beating Haku, Sai and He. It was fast and durable. It was only some quick thinking and Naruto's emitter disc that allowed them to win, the trio hitting the floor while the monster stood upright not expecting a thing. That level of talent, with your looks. It didn't take long for Kabuto to remember a blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy named Uzumaki Naruto. Hidden away on Sasuke-kun's team. Sarutobi-sensei always was disgustingly clever like that. Put you on a team with the last Uchiha and no one would even take a second glance. I guess I'm fortunate that such things don't escape my notice. Naruto accepted that this man clearly liked to hear himself talk. It was good, he didn't have to try to banter or match wits with him. The traitor would fill the space without any prompting. That would work out well. It is little known, but I originally wanted Minato to be my apprentice. If Orochimaru was expecting a reaction, he didn't get one, which seemed to amuse him. I saw the same talent that Jiraiya, but I saw something even more impressive and rare. Do you know what that is, Naruto-kun? No, Naruto answered, and the Sannin could not be faulted for thinking the Uzumaki was referring to him. But he wasn't. As the Sannin was speaking, his team had come into range of his communicator seal. Hours earlier Jiraiya arrived to a battlefield. His team were not at the inn he booked, and the surrounding areas looked like a fierce battle had occurred. There were slashes in the trees, overturned earth, scorch marks and the like. He approached his team, his godson administering aid to Sai and Haku. Clearly, they had been injured, and that tightened the Toad Sage's chest. He'd gone to meet a contact, he really couldn't bring the kids along, but during that time they'd been set upon. Naruto, what happened? Otto. One was Kabuto Yakushi, he used to work in the hospital. He was much better than a Jinan. The others referred to themselves as the Sound Four. They had cursed marks and overwhelmed us. Haku took an arrow to the abdomen, but her flak jacket prevented it from piercing too deeply. It nearly broke a rib on impact. Sai had a concussion, I've treated it along with his dislocated shoulder. Is there anything else? Yes, we're both clones. Their mission was to take the original. What? Jiraiya yelled before calming down. I can just reverse summon him, so not ideal but not a catastrophe. The boss doesn't think you should do that. And why not? They didn't want him dead, which means they are taking him back to some kind of base. The locator seal is active and the communicator seal will be once you're in range. This is a chance for more intel and to possibly confirm what you suspect, the clone argued. Jiraiya cursed himself for being so unthinking. Making their way through that other base, he said the work was likely the product of Orochimaru, more to himself and in disgust, but his team heard him. He was right, if they could get there in time then it would be confirmation that Otto had some tie to Orochimaru and resources could be dedicated to uprooting the mysterious village. How much longer until they are operational? 20 minutes at the most. Jiraiya grunted in approval and waited for what felt like the longest 20 minutes of his life. The clones dispelled, sending back the relevant information to the original, and what was left of Team Jiraiya departed swiftly, the two younger shinobi pushing themselves to keep up with the legendary ninja. The jovial Jiraiya they had grown accustomed to was gone. It was clear, when he arrived there was going to be a reckoning. As they raced toward Naruto's location, Haku was the first to realize the communicator seal had come online. She cursed herself for her weakness, in her failure to protect her friend. She'd hesitated when she had to opening to kill and it cost her. The bitter taste of regret lingered on her tongue and she promised herself she'd never allow her weak heart to endanger Naruto, or anyone else, again. Naruto-kun, are you hurt? No. We're 7 minutes out, just hold on, the last known Yuki voweled as she continued to pace, prepared to do anything to rescue her friend. 7 minutes, the Uzumaki thought. It wasn't long but it'd have to do. He had a mission to complete and he'd listened to the weird snake man talk long enough. Forming the ram sign, a seal started to glow in Kabuto's arm, something that was not missed by Orochimaru. Nor did he miss that the seal seemed to be traveling up his subordinate's arm toward his body. Removing the hidden kunai he kept in his sleeve, Orochimaru cut Kabuto's arm off and formed an Earth-style mud wall. The construct protected them from the predicted explosion. When the smoke cleared and the ringing in his ears subsided, Orochimaru realized his guest had departed. He turned to Kabuto, on the ground and writhing in pain. He could replace the boy's arm so he hadn't lost all value. Not that he'd be that upset if Kabuto had been killed. If he could be duped by a Jinan, which he almost had been, then he wasn't the caliber of ninja the Sannin needed anyway. He went to the door and was shocked when he attempted to open it. He laughed at being trapped in the room, curious to see what Naruto-kun was going to do. Just after Naruto vacated the dining room he placed a timed barrier seal on the door. It wasn't extremely complex but it would do. He summoned his black flak jacket and zipped it up, having removed it before Kabuto finally captured him. He didn't have much time but he'd allow his Oji-san's words to guide him. If you are ever in an enemy's territory, remove all traces of mercy and doubt. Do not expect to be shown any, so show none in kind. The raid of the first auto base had been Naruto's first kills. He wasn't sure how he felt about it. It gave him no great thrill but didn't fill him with sadness either. He hadn't had a lot of time to figure it out and that wasn't about to change. He activated his projection seal, having managed to tag each of the Sound 4. If all went to plan, each would die tonight. The enemy will often see their numbers as a strength but when caught off guard, when truly surprised, numbers are a weakness. People can be irrational, the larger the group the greater the effect. Cause maximum damage, so the greatest amount of chaos while you accomplish your real mission. He could hear several people approaching him from either side of the corridor, all racing toward the dining room's entrance. Naruto removed 2 emitter discs from his flak jacket and tossed them in opposite directions. Holding the tiger seal, the discs exploded. At first he heard screams and then silence. The Uzumaki created 10 clones, they would go in the opposite direction to sow discord and secure his exit. As he ran down the hallway he saw how effective his explosion was but resolved not to dwell on it, he needed to focus. The base was a labyrinth of long hallways and multiple underground levels. He couldn't be too rash but he had to be swift. The first target was approaching fast, and in their haste, Naruto could hear multiple hastily planted a trap and then merged with his surroundings. Hurry, you idiots. We need to get to Orochimaru-sama now, Sakon yelled. He and the 6 other continued down the hallway, the strongest of the Sound 4 bringing up the rear. None of the ninja realized they triggered a seal but were simply blinded and deafened by a flash bang. Naruto took advantage of his opening, descending from the stone ceiling, slapping a chakra restriction seal on Sakon and stabbing him in the brain. He knew the man was actually 2 people but without chakra they would share one fate. One was down. Naruto looked to the others. He performed 4 hand signs and placed his right palm on the ground. A seal emerged and surrounded the downed ninja and Naruto departed. He still had 5 minutes left. The ninja were still disorganized and it allowed Naruto to make it to the next level. Sticking to the ceiling, Naruto waited for his next target. It was the large one, the one that gave Saya's concussion. The Uzumaki dropped down, planning a quick slash like the one before and felt his blade sink into flesh. "Ugh," the large man said, now a kunai stabbed into his hand. He retaliated with a fierce punch, sending Naruto through the door of an adjacent room. Jirobo grunted as he removed the blade, following the boy into the room. Only to be blown back by the explosion of an emitter disc. Pressured for time, it was underpowered but it was enough to temporarily blind the behemoth. On pure instinct, Jirobo reached out his hands and caught the impending dual stabs aimed for his neck. Blinded and enraged, he gripped Naruto's wrists and slammed the smaller boy into the wall. Spider cracks formed due to the force. Unrelenting, the Sound 4 strong man went for a headbutt, finding a pair of knees instead of his intended target, consequently breaking his nose. As Jirobo reared back, Naruto took advantage by kicking the Auto Elite in the throat. Startled, he released his grip and was rewarded with a kunai in each of his lungs. The Titan-esque male dropped to the ground. Naruto tossed one more kunai to his head to make sure his target wouldn't arise again. He'd made that mistake with Kabuto and he wouldn't make it again. Reactivating his projection seal, Naruto saw his last two targets were far from each other, one on the lowest level and the other near the stairwell he'd recently navigated. He had just under 3 minutes, no time to waste. Running through the halls, he was soon presented with a squad of ninja. It appeared they were getting their wits about him, his distractions wearing off. The tunic-wearing ninja seemed unsurprised to find him and ready to fight. Any half-trained shinobi force will eventually regroup and mount a counterattack. It will be harder to navigate their terrain, but nothing is hopeless. Certain people draw others to them, giving their comrades strength and confidence. Crush those individuals and you crush morale. Then neutralize all before you. Naruto took a good look at the squad before him. All adults, mostly about average size except for one. He was closer to Hatake-sensei's height and the other three were surrounding him. He also saw the other three subtly looking at man as if waiting to follow his lead. His back was sore and his ribs ached, he was also getting impatient. He couldn't waste time with these individuals, but he knew if he got careless he'd fail and possibly die. Naruto retrieved 2 senbon from a special pouch on his jacket and took a defensive stance. The larger man laughed, as if in disbelief. "Are you the one causing this ruckus? Heard you killed Sakon. Good, I always hated that bastard. Why don't you come along back to Orochimaru-sama before the boys and I hurt you?" "No. A tough guy, yay? Fine. I'll have to show you what being tough really is and then Orochimaru-sama will reward me." The man dashed toward Naruto after that. His speed was moderate and his stance was all wrong for fighting a much smaller opponent. Once he reached Naruto he found the 2 senbon and a knee each. Stunned from the pain, he didn't block the dropkick delivered by the kidnapped Jinan. The other 3 showed the depths of their disbelief, that this child had managed. It was a mistake. Their other mistake was going toward their down leader instead of attacking Naruto, but they wouldn't get the chance to amend it. One flare of chakra later and the 2 senbon exploded, taking out the entire squad. Ignoring the gore and smell of burnt flesh, Naruto charged through the door. Pain soon followed. Immense pain and the feeling of being forcefully lifted from his feet and, again, tossed through a door. From his back the Uzumaki looked down to see a golden arrow penetrating his protective wear. He could feel the cracks in his ribs as breathing became more difficult. He could also feel the injury slowly healing, but he had no time to wait for completion. Naruto ran through the doorway again, this time leaping over the railing, down to the next floor, narrowly avoiding being impaled by another arrow. As he grabbed onto the metal frame he grunted in discomfort. "This is as far as you go, Blondie," Kitamura said, hanging from a web, aiming his bow for Naruto. Not having a moment to breathe, Kitamura continued his game of cat and mouse, rapidly shooting arrows at Naruto's position and the Uzumaki barely dodging them. This man was a target, but he had the high ground and other advantages. No matter how he moved, the Spider Boy was simply prepared to attack and leave no time for a counter. Naruto accepted he didn't have the time to see to him personally. The only benefit of being under constant assault is that he was nearing the bottom level. Letting go of his current position, Naruto retrieved 3 pellets and threw them upward. Soon, the stairwell was engulfed in smoke and Kitamura pulled himself up so as to not be ambushed. The 6-armed ninja's instinct was correct as a series of wind-style, air bullets rocketed upward. He evaded them but frowned as the smoke was still rising and his vision was blocked. The sound 4 Archer heard more than saw items cutting through the smoke. He had just enough time to escape the immediate blast radius but still suffered some damage. When the smoke finally cleared, Kitamura saw roughly a dozen copies of the little bastard he'd abducted earlier. He was already tired from the previous fight but realized this kid was intent on trying to kill him. He released the first level of his cursed mark and got ready for round 2. The original landed silently and made his way toward his final target. He was nearing the end of his time limit, having to forego stealth for speed. Naruto darted past the prison cells, the detainees too beaten and terrorized to give away his position. Most didn't even bother to look up. He stalked the last of Orochimaru's bodyguard and would not have needed his seal to find her. The kunoichi was busy berating some of prisoners, using a host of foul language and insults. Naruto took a calming breath, recalling another piece of advice from his Oji-san. Never be afraid to go at someone's strength. Shinobi can be prideful about our skills. If you go at a specialist with a weak iteration of their skill, they may be too busy boasting to realize the opening they left you. Take full advantage of it. Naruto recalled the girl used auditory genjutsu but wasn't much for direct combat. He didn't know many proper genjutsu but he did have one that would fit the situation. A quick series of hand seals and Naruto cast the demonic art, Hell Viewing Jutsu. Chuya knew immediately she was under a genjutsu and tore through it with little effort. As she turned to berate the idiot that would dare attempt such a useless technique on her, a shin met the soft cartilage of her nose, breaking it easily. As Naruto approached the downed kunoichi, he heard a vehement shake of cell doors. Sensing it was a warning, Naruto ducked to all fours, the kick aimed for his head sailing over him. But he didn't have enough time to avoid the follow-up kick to his injured ribs. The blow, strong and fast, sent the Uzumaki back several feet. "So, this is the trash that interests Orochimaru-sama?" Naruto heard a voice ask. He looked up and saw it was an older, white-haired teen with loose-fitting clothes. The kick hurt, undoing any progress his regenerative abilities had accomplished. "Yay," Tuya started, pinching her nose, "that's the fucker." "Good, you leave and I'll handle it from here," Kimimaro ordered. The normally vulgar girl did as she was told and departed further away. The Uzumaki tossed a kunai toward the girl, but Kimimaro caught it and tossed it to the side. Naruto felt frustration rise within him. He barely had a minute and a half left and he had to get through this person to finish his mission. Kimimaro attacked without warning. With his injuries, Naruto was forced to be more defensive and evasive in this fight, utilizing the move Shizune taught him. He was dodging most of the older boy's blows but still getting clipped occasionally. The pair looked caught in a dance of death, the flourishes of agility eschewing the deadly intent. Naruto could admit the person he was fighting was better than him, but he wasn't deterred. He remained patient, learning his enemy's pattern and timing. It wasn't long before he found his opening. Kimimaro attempted a roundhouse and Naruto slipped under it, slyly placing a paper bomb on Kimimaro's leg. Naruto shunshined away and activated the note. He heard a grunt of pain but saw none of the blood he'd assumed would accompany his move. When the smoke cleared, he saw the auto ninja looking mostly unharmed, save for his burned clothing. His leg, encased in a thick armor of what appeared to be bone and holding a sword of the same material. "It seems it was wrong of me to call you trash. I am Kaguya Kimimaro and will present your broken body to my lord." Naruto said nothing in response but unsealed his staff. Giving it a twirl, he charged toward the now named Kaguya. Back in the stairwell, Kitamura was breathing heavily. The clones pushed him to the point of needing the second level of his cursed mark. The surroundings were wrecked, signs of multiple explosions and blunt force damage could be seen about. He was just glad he finally got all of them. He needed to get his burns looked at and get some rest, putting an end to this. Lulled into a false sense of security, he reacted too slowly when a final clone descended from above. Trying to make up for being caught unaware, he created a short arrow, palming it. The archer thrust it behind him. He got the clone but not before it had completed its mission. Kitamura instantly felt the backlash of the seal that had been placed on him. A seal that would bind his cursed mark and force it to recede. The pain and the destabilization of his chakra network caused the arachnid-themed boy to lose his grip. Falling, he could do nothing to save himself as unconsciousness was setting upon him. Not able to channel chakra into his body, Kitamura hit the ground from a several stories fall, breaking his back, but not even the force of his impact nor the agony it elicited could wake the boy. Kimimaro looked at the boy he'd been exchanging blows with. He'd been tempted to activate his cursed mark but knew it'd hasten his decline. He felt he couldn't give this boy a single opening or the blonde would put full effort into ending him. He could only die when Orochimaru-sama gave him permission. Kimimaro wondered how the boy would fight unhampered, clearly holding back as to not harm the prisoners and due to injuries sustained in previous exchanges. But that could wait. The boy had an unknown opening and the Kaguya planned to take advantage of it to end this fight. He really could not prolong it without deleterious effects. He charged, performing several fast-paced thrusts at the Konohamaru. Naruto deflected the attacks one after another, as Kimimaro predicted he would, but after his first volley the boy lowered his staff. Channeling chakra into his legs, the leader of Orochimaru's elite guard rushed him, stabbing Naruto in the left shoulder. It was as he designed it. However, Kimimaro could take no pleasure in his assumed victory. During his dash, Naruto was engaging a plan of his own. Having created a false opening for the Kaguya, Naruto resealed his staff and took the blow to his shoulder. He only needed one hand anyway. Grinding. Flesh grinding. His very muscles being pulverized and begging to give way to a superior force. There are very few people who have experienced the Rasengan and lived. Kimimaro would be added to that list, ironically having Jiraiya to thank for saving his life, as just as Naruto was about to pierce his torso with the peak of shape manipulation, the Toad Sage reverse summoned him. With little ceremony, the Uzumaki ripped out the bone sword from his shoulder. He found himself inside a hug, feeling the familiar softness of Haku's bust. Normally, he greatly appreciated Haku's hugs, but now he felt as if he didn't deserve it. He'd failed. He was to neutralize those that had harmed his friends and he'd failed. Before he could give voice to any of his thoughts, he heard a voice he thought he'd be free of for some time. He knew his barrier wouldn't last long, but hoped the weird, snake man would attend to his forces. Jiraiya stood in front of his team, ready to strike should Orochimaru make an untoward move. Kukaku, why Naruto-kun, you sure caused a mess. You've gone too far this time, Orochimaru, Jiraiya yelled, but the snake Sanin's eyes didn't leave Naruto. We can fight now, Jiraiya, but I have the superior numbers and no problem killing the kiddies. I'd love to get the Juki on my table. We'd have a lot of fun. I'd have a lot of fun. You'd scream yourself hoarse and beg me to stop. Jiraiya frowned. It really wouldn't be safe for him to go all out with his team here, and going all out was the only way he'd kill his former teammate. They'd have to retreat for now, even though everything inside of him wanted to kill that man and all who dared to follow him. Let's go, Jiraiya ordered. Oh, before you do, I never got to give you my answer, Naruto-kun. The reason I wanted Minato-kun as a student? He was a natural-born killer. Just like me, Orochimaru said, and broke out into a face-splitting smile. And just like you. Orochimaru gazed upon his downed elites. 2 of his sound 4 were confirmed dead. Kitamura managed to hang on, but the long-range fighter sustained a broken back and legs. Worse yet, in his few conscious moments when prompted, he could not activate his cursed mark. The spider-esque shinobi confessed he couldn't even feel it to draw upon. Kimimaro was in critical but stable condition. Orochimaru didn't know whether to count the Kaguya as lucky or not. Sure, he lived, but the damage done by what, as he described it, could only be the Rasengan shortened his already dwindling life, and he'd be in great pain for the remainder. Kabuto, by comparison, was better off. The arm he lost could be replaced and would in short order. That the medical ninja was clearly suppressing rage at having been maimed, and more importantly, nearly killed by a child, amused the snake Sanin. He was aware that Kabuto would try to kill the Uzumaki at his earliest opportunity. If he managed it, the Akatsuki would bring down the full force of their wrath. Orochimaru was a genius, but he knew he couldn't defeat the entirety of the Akatsuki. Still, he held no concerns for Kabuto's attempt. If his assumptions about Naruto were correct, the Uzumaki had seen enough of Kabuto's fighting style and techniques to get an accurate measure of him. Kabuto didn't currently have anything in his arsenal that would alter that conclusion. In short, Kabuto had likely been figured out by the boy. He may be faster and more experienced, but it wouldn't matter. If Kabuto tried to strike at Naruto, he'd lose his life in the process, and if his second wasn't perceptive enough to realize that, then he'd come to the end of his usefulness anyway. All in all, the murdering and crippling of his elites, the loss of dozens more, and having to abandon a base were small sacrifices. If Naruto had even half of his father's potential, and his facility with seals would put the estimation well above that, he'd be a once-in-a-generation talent. What did displease him was what the surveillance footage showed. The chibi assassin hadn't shown one sign he was enjoying himself. It was all business. While admirable to a degree, it simply wouldn't do for his student. He would teach the Uzumaki how to have fun while he worked, to extract every ounce of pleasure from his deeds. Life was too short to not love what you did. But Naruto would learn. You seem happy, Orochimaru-sama, Guren said, having just entered the medical wing. More excited than anything, Guren-chan. I believe I have stumbled upon something interesting. The boy? Yes, indeed. Naruto-kun seems to have the talent and inclinations of his father, along with something else truly magnificent. What is that? A bloodline? Will he be your next host? She asked, managing to repress much of the bitterness in her voice, but Orochimaru heard it all the same. No, nothing like that, and he couldn't be my new host even if I wanted him to. First, he knows how to completely seal up the cursed mark, so I'd be wasting my time even trying. Secondly, I suspect he is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Guren's eyes went wide for the briefest of moments before she regained her composure. Is that how he was able to defeat them? She asked. Kukaku, no. I don't know if he can use the Kyuubi's chakra, but it was clear he didn't need to. There is a lot of potential in him. The very prospect makes me giddy. How shall I be of use? I want you to backchannel with our remaining assets in Konoha. Get all the information you can on Naruto-kun. Jiraiya knows of my connection with Otto, so some things will need to change, but the invasion will still commence. Hi, Guren said as she bowed and departed. The pieces on the board hadn't changed, but the game had. The snake Sanin just had to get them all lined up before the game was afoot. Finally, things were getting interesting. A purple-haired, long-term Onbu kneeled in front of her Hokage. The wizened leader was making quick work of her report. When Jiraiya submitted the details of Naruto's kidnapping, Hiruzen wasted no time ordering a full platoon of Onbu to the location. He knew his wayward student would have likely departed, but if there was even the slim possibility he would be there, he wanted his best on the scene. By the time the elite operatives arrived, the base had been cleared. The forensic specialists, of which Kat was one, swept through the place anyway, paying special focus to any of Naruto's leftover Fūinjutsu. The boy had been detailed about his various seals and traps, which was fortunate as he saved the Anbu from tripping any. The damage inflicted should not have been possible by a rookie Jinan, and it reflected in her report's conclusion. The Sandaime read speedily, pride and worry warring within him. Kat's description of Naruto's impromptu mission adding color to Naruto-kun's dry synopsis. As described by Jinan Uzumaki, Anbu squad found several examples of his motion-activated explosions. Trapping shows, while Jinan Uzumaki may not fully understand the subjective elements of emotions, he understands as sensory inputs that elicit predictable reactions. Seals placed on incapacitated Autonin were linked. If someone went to aid a downed comrade, the seal would trigger multiple simultaneous explosions. Jinan Uzumaki also showed great practicality in his seal design and placement. Some traps created to take advantage of basic shinobi formations. Pressure seals triggered by a lead ninja would take out members behind, without the lead knowing, leaving the lone shinobi confident in numbers that were no longer present. It is my conclusion that Jinan Uzumaki, by attempting to carry out a 5-target assassination mission behind enemy lines, with 2 confirmed kills and 2 possible to likely, as well as providing information on Nukenin Orochimaru, should be promoted to Chunin and drafted into the Anbu Black Ops. No, the Sandaime said. There is safety in anonymity. You utilize this logic for most of his life, Hokage-sama, Kat responded, neutrally, but Hiruzen felt the acidity of her words. An anonymous orphan and an Anbu are hardly the same. Rise, Kat, her leader ordered, and she obeyed. Anbu would not aid in his development. Anbu would make him strong just like it did for Kakashi. Like me. Even Itachi. We don't need another Itachi, the Hokage observed. Naruto-kun wouldn't be like Itachi, their psychology is fundamentally different, and Naruto-kun would never turn on Konoha unless you ordered him to, Kat countered. Hiruzen felt pained at how close to the truth Kat unknowingly was about Itachi. Naruto-kun will never be an Anbu as long as I draw breath. Then send him to cryptanalysis or the engineering divisions. Create a real Fūinjutsu division, place the barrier core under it and promote him to special jounin, Kat argued. She was growing frustrated. The Sandaime was one of, if not the smartest man in the village. Clearly he could see Naruto was attracting attention that outstripped his development. It would only get worse, and the blonde wasn't prepared. I know you worry about him and you honor Kushina, but Naruto-kun must be allowed to grow. I believe he is something special and will do great things. Just like Minato left his mark on a student, Kushina had as well. Mostly informal, her pregnancy delaying things, but Kushina had mentored the young Anbu Kunoichi and Kat admired the woman. But like Kakashi, she simply wasn't a viable option for adoption, as her work with the Black Ops organization was too vital. He has to be alive to achieve those goals, Kat stated. Yes, he must. But he must also be tested. Fate and foolish old men have not been kind to Naruto-kun. And as much as it pains me to say it, Orochimaru will simply be one of many challenges he will endure in the future. He has no choice but to be strong. Better than even his father, and at a much earlier age. He will be at his best in the light, reaching only a fraction of his true potential as an Anbu. That's not a reasonable expectation, Hokage-sama. Minato-sama was considered more than a genius, I know. Many saw him as the perfect shinobi, but he wasn't. He was just a man. Indescribably talented but not perfect. He can be surpassed, and I believe he thought Naruto-kun would be the one to do so. Sandaime-sama, that is even more reason to draft him. He'll get dedicated training and experience. Kakashi, Jiraiya and Tsunade do what they can, but all have to split focus to other duties or charges. My decision on this is final, Kat. Naruto-kun was meant for the light, not the darkness, and if you've spoken to Tenzo, then you know he is building bonds with many. He's not that lonely, little boy you used to watch play in the forest. Besides, Naruto-kun doesn't need Kat, but I bet Yugao would be a fine addition in his life. But? Did you really think I allowed Kakashi-kun to be his sensei, bring Jiraiya back but deny you? I honestly assumed I wouldn't have to tell you. He knows about his parents, so you can introduce yourself. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Sai, Haku, secure the perimeter, Jiraiya ordered. The small house they were set to enter was unassuming, but he wouldn't allow himself to be overly lax again. The two departed without a word. He saw his other student making the cross-shaped hand sign, and Jiraiya swatted his hands apart. What do you think you're doing, Naruto? Creating clones to add security seals to the house, he answered. Team Medic doesn't do that. Team Medic treats injuries. And what are you? Experiencing a great deal of irritation caused by you, Naruto replied, neutrally. The Team Medic, yes you are, Jiraiya spoke, answering his own question and ignoring his godson. He knew he was being hard on the boy, but what Naruto did was stupid. Jiraiya didn't care if it worked out. It was an unnecessary risk. That he had to admonish Naruto for doing something stupid in a similar way to how he once admonished Minato didn't help things. He'd lost him way too soon and he would not lose Naruto. But the Uzumaki was hard-headed, insistent he took the correct course of action. Jiraiya needed him to understand it wasn't okay to deceive his team leader, even for a just cause. And revenge, which is what Jiraiya would chalk this up to, would never be just. The Sannin knocked on the door and immediately heard scurrying about. What's the password? He heard a kunoichi timidly ask. Jiraiya rolled his eyes as there were a lot of passwords and how you knew which one to give was set up by the first person speaking. They start the phrase, you end it. The password is I'm Jiraiya of the Sannin, now open the door, Missy. And no. Jiraiya facepalmed. He could hear how rattled the girl was just by her voice. Still, had she not been trained on how to verify support? He wondered what Kakashi was teaching his team. Sakura-san, I offered to have sex with you once we reached 16. You did not seem receptive to the offer. The door opened and Naruto was ensconced in a hug. Without any diagnostic jutsu, he could tell his teammate was nearing exhaustion and needed rest. Whatever she could relay wouldn't be credible, so Naruto raised a green glowing hand to her temple. She instantly went slack in his arms and he executed a bridal carry as they entered the cabin like home. As they entered, they saw Kakashi on the couch palming a kunai but looking otherwise unbothered. Oh, Naruto-kun, you sly devil. Naruto looked at his sensei and then at his godfather, not understanding the implication. Kakashi, I smiled, figuring Naruto wouldn't get it. Spare room is in the back, lay her down and then check on Sasuke and Lee, okay? Naruto nodded and walked off. As relieved as I am to see you, Jiraiya-sama, you seem stressed. Jiraiya scoffed. I'm beyond stressed, Kakashi. I am in a storm of shit of which there is no safe passage nor dry land. We raided one of Orochimaru's bases. It was our first mission. The snake responds by having his elite bodyguards attack my team and snatch Naruto while I was with a contact. Jiraiya rubbed at his temple, trying to will away his headache. Had he paid attention he'd have noticed Kakashi visibly tense, only having seen his student reassured him the boy was okay. And if that wasn't bad enough, Kushina's brat decides that each of the ninja involved in his abduction had to die. Not for kidnapping him, he by all appearances doesn't even give a shit. No, it's because they hurt Sai and Haku in the attempt. So, what does he do? He goes to fucking war by himself in a base where Orochimaru was in attendance. And he almost pulled it off. He even managed to beat a Kaguya. By the time I got there it looked like a team of demolition experts had gone crazy. Sensei and Haim know he was snatched, no Orochimaru has interest in him. Sensei sent Enma to inform me of his displeasure. Katsuya tells me Tsunade is creating a new technique just for me. Hell, I can't even reprimand the kid too harshly without Haku wanting to use my nutsack for target practice. She's been his shadow since we got him back. This has just been a mess. Jiraiya finished and finally looked at Kakashi. He did not like what he was seeing. I know you were long time Anbu and you masks get all turned around, but do not, under any circumstances, praise him for what he did, Kakashi. I don't want to encourage this kind of behavior, not misleading me nor in revenge seeking. Kakashi didn't bother to fight the pride he was feeling and resolved to get the full report once he returned to the village. I won't, but I won't admonish him either, not without all the information. Sure, whatever, the Sannin replied. Now, what happened to you? Oh, you know? Came to escort the client to the capital to get her away from local crime lord. Residents poisoned me and attempted to do the same to the Jinan out of fear of what would happen if crime lord doesn't get what he wants. Crime lord's muscle, made of multiple missing or former ninja attack, and with me poisoned we sustain more damage than we would otherwise while losing the client. Okay, give me everything you know and I'll complete the mission. With the rest of your team? No. My bastard of a former teammate pissed me off and I need to cut loose. Can't do that with the kids around. Besides, Haku and Sai will be more than enough to guard this place. Naruto is remanded to non-combat duties unless absolutely necessary. You sure you want to provoke him like this? As you say, he is Kushina's child and you remember she always got even. Always, the copy ninja stressed. PFFT, I'm a Sannin, what can that brat do to me? He bought your publisher, remember? Well, he can't buy them a second time. I'll be fine. Kakashi didn't bother to respond further, as he reasoned Jiraiya would simply have to learn the hard way. Naruto-kun? Lee asked in surprise as his newest friend walked into the bedroom. Both he and Sasuke were on bedrolls. Is Sakura-chan alright? The taijutsu specialist asked in concern. Sasuke remained quiet, only watching his occasional teammate lie Sakura down on her own bedroll. She is fine, Lee-san, Naruto said once he'd gotten Sakura down, she just needed some rest. She'll wake up in a few hours. Naruto created a shadow clone and sent it to Lee as he moved to and kneeled next to Sasuke. The original and the clone began their diagnostic jutsu and Naruto noticed the gash on Sasuke's side. It was deep but bandaged well, so as long as Sasuke didn't make any sudden moves he'd have been fine. He also noticed high levels of dopamine and norepinephrine. There were signs of fatigue and high blood pressure as well. Sasuke-san, can you tell me what happened? We got ambushed. Handled the initial wave, but there were a few missing nin that overwhelmed us. I activated my Sharingan in time to save Sakura from getting killed. Though, who knows what state we'd be in if our team medic was with us from the start, Sasuke said bitterly. He wasn't really mad at Naruto or Sakura for that matter. It did scare him how close he came to dying, to never fulfilling his life's ambition. Reasonable, Naruto replied, taking no offense. He continued his checkup, now focusing on Sasuke's newly evolved eyes. Your Sharingan, what do you experience when you activate it? How did you activate it? I don't know, we were getting overwhelmed and they just activated. Suddenly, everything seemed slower and I could react better to it. It's why I was able to get to Sakura. Tachypsychia, trauma-induced, Naruto thought and would make note of it in his medical report. Sasuke-san, I would recommend you not activating your Sharingan again before undergoing a full workup once you've returned to the village. The Uchiha wasn't happy about that, but didn't protest, still tired and sore from the attack. The clone was attending to Lee and noticing a high degree of muscle strain and tears. The youthful beast explained the 8 inner gates while he regaled him of his fierce battle. It was very vivid and the clone nodded in appreciation of Lee's storytelling ability. The clone repaired the most serious of the damage, making sure Lee could be operational should the need arise, but letting the body finish healing naturally was generally preferable. He'd only need a day or two of rest and he'd be fine. Naruto returned to the front room to render treatment to Kakashi. The boy worked in silence, only humming when he discovered an anomaly. Nothing life-threatening, but something he'd request a more experienced medic look over in his report. Kakashi watched Chibi, debating whether he should ignore Jiraiya's request and praise his favorite student for doing something cool. He doubted Sasuke nor Sakura would do anything half as cool until they were Chunin. So, Jiraiya-sama tells me you found yourself in a bit of trouble, Kakashi observed, dryly. Yes, Naruto responded as he was writing his report. And how do you feel about everything? Displeased. I failed to neutralize all of my desired targets. Understandable, but not every mission can be a success. How about your team? How are Sai and Haku? Sai has voiced his displeasure at his performance as well. Haku? I do not know. She has, unless ordered otherwise, remained very close to me since my return. That's not all bad, is it? No, I am amenable to it but am unsure of the motivation. She says she is fine, but I do not believe that to be the case, however I am unsure how to proceed. Kakashi thought about the Hyotan user and what he knew of her, not taking long for his vast intellect to reach a conclusion. You know, she defined herself by her ability to protect and be of value to Zabuza. For a long time that's how she understood the world. I doubt she's changed that radically in such a short time. Maybe she believed she should have been better able to protect you and feels bad she could not. We are a team and she is my friend, not a guard, Naruto responds. Yes, but the same could be said for you. Once you confirmed Orochimaru was behind the abduction, you could have allowed Jiraiya-sama to reverse summon you. You have to allow that your friends will be as protective of you as you are of them. I accept the premise, but I am perfectly fine and yet she is not. Then maybe she needs some reassurance, Kakashi suggested. Naruto looked at his sensei to see if there would be more, and when there was not he nodded and began to write his reports. Knowing a secondary conversation wouldn't impede his report writing, Kakashi continued, so, about Orochimaru, how do you feel about all of that? I am unsure. As he is a known traitor and enemy to Oji-san and the Leaf, I am tempted to simply dismiss his words about the Yondaime as empty. What did he say about Minato-sensei? He said he was a natural killer and his interest in me was that we shared that trait. Is it true? Naruto asked and Kakashi experienced a wave of revulsion. No. Orochimaru is mad and his madness colors his perspective. Minato-sensei simply could endure the realities of shinobi life better than anyone I've known. He knew how to make and accept the hard decisions, but when the mission was over he knew how to enjoy life. If I see any comparison between you two, it is that. Sensei was a skilled killer but he didn't enjoy it. He also wasn't racked with guilt. Orochimaru is a psychopath and no matter what he says, I know you aren't that, Kakashi explained to his student. Naruto nodded as he finished his report, submitting it to Tsunade via the shared storage seal. He was going to start on a seal project but Sai came through the door, ever-present smile on his face. We subdued 3 enemy ninja, Sai stated. Excellent work. I'll meet up with Haku, you stay here with Naruto-kun, he instructed the smiling boy. Sai nodded and Kakashi started toward Haku, easily reversing Sai's route through scent. Is Haku okay? She's a sadist, Sai offered his psychological diagnosis. Physically? Yes, ignoring the sadism she is well. Tsunade sat in the cafeteria with her longtime student, enjoying her soup and sandwich. She could have eaten in her office but she made it a point to be in common areas. No, she wasn't the warmest nor friendliest person in the world but her staff couldn't find her unapproachable either. Eating amongst them was just one way she attempted to show that. Her hazel orbs were looking over Naruto's just submitted report and she was intrigued. If he were correct it pointed toward some interesting treatment options but she wouldn't know until Team 7 returned. As she was handing the report to Shizune, intending to request her opinion, the Sannin was joined by a purple-haired kunoichi. Tsunade considered the woman standing in front of her. It wasn't hard to deduce who she was given the hair, the last Senju having seen the Anbu around from time to time. Some might wonder how Anbu were allowed such distinctive characteristics but if you were an enemy and you saw Anbu you were about to die anyway. Forgive me for interrupting, Tsunade-sama, but may I have a moment of your time? The fellow leaf ninja asked. Sure. Yu-Gao, ma'am. Uzuki Yu-Gao. Yu-Gao, of course, have a seat, Tsunade invited and the swordswoman accepted. What can I do for you? I was hoping you could tell me a little about Uzumaki Naruto-kun. I was on his detail when he was small but reassigned once he joined the academy and haven't been able to keep tabs on him since. Yu-Gao explained but Tsunade was incredulous. So curious just because you watched him several years ago? If I'm going to discuss my student with a relative stranger I need a little more than that. Besides, you wouldn't want me to misread your motives. Yu-Gao received the threat, as it was intended, but showed no outward signs she was intimidated. I was mentored by his mother for a short time before she became pregnant, she shared. I would have liked to have been more involved but it was thought to be safer if I was not. Sandaime-sama just gave me permission to meet with him socially and I thought I could share some things with him about his mom that others wouldn't know. Okay. Well, Shizune spends as much time with him as I do so what would you say about your kohai? Tsunade asked, teasingly. Her student had taken to Naruto quite fast, liking someone paying such close attention to her. Tsunade knew her longtime student well enough to know she had to fight the urge to treat the boy like a life-sized plushie every time he cocked his head to the side and squinted when in deep thought. Shizune wasn't affected by her master's taunts, having grown used to them over the years. She, instead, simply answered Yu-Gao, Naruto-kun approaches the world as if it is a series of puzzles. Some he solves quickly, others more slowly but I doubt he ever gives up. This is why he'll make a good diagnostician. The problem is, he's so used to trying to figure things out that he often misses when he should simply experience something. He idolizes the Sandaime, adores Konohamaru-kun and cherishes his best friend, Hinata-chan, though he likely doesn't understand that's how he feels about these individuals. He can be very kind, in his way, never intending to be rude or mean. But given recent events, he can also be very unkind if the situation calls for it. Yu-Gao could only grimly nod at the final part of Shizune's statement. She saw the aftermath of his unkindness. Brett also likes the ladies. Yes, I've heard whispers about his fondness for the fairer sex. I worry about Kakashi and Jiraiya-sama's influence. Oh, yay, that'll be something to stamp out, but I mean he genuinely likes women. I don't think it's an accident most of his friends are girls. Yu-Gao nodded at Tsunade's correction. Is there anything else I should know? Both medics answered in the negative and Yu-Gao departed. She had a few more stops to make before her information gathering was completed. Kakashi arrived to the scene of the battle, if it could be called that. The 3 ninja that harmed his cute, little students were riddled with senbone and unconscious. He found that surprising because from what Naruto told to him, this Haku was a precision fighter. However, it appeared she went to town on the 3 felled ninja before him. Paired with the vision of overwhelming violence, Haku stood before the copy ninja looking quite innocent. It was slightly unnerving. Haku-chan, report, Kakashi casually ordered. I saw the 3 making their way to the cabin and intercepted them. They tried to resist and greater force was called for, she answered. And you are sure all this was necessary? Kakashi asked, skeptical of her conclusion. Very, Hatake-san. Well, good. Why don't you head back to the cabin and I'll educate these young men on the error of their wicked ways. They are unconscious, Hatake-san, Haku observed. Then it will be a short lesson, won't it? Kakashi posed the rhetorical question why favoring Haku with an eye smile. She simply departed via Sunshine and allowed the odd man to do what he was. Kakashi returned to his observance of the trio of fair-skinned and platinum-blonde missing ninja. He knew them, the three were infamous. Called the Lightning Brothers, the triplets had the distinct dishonor of becoming missing ninja because they were too stupid to find their way back to Kumo after a mission. A simply wanted to be rid of them, hence the burn notice. Now, what to do with you poor devils? You aren't really worth enough to bother with a bounty. Can't possibly know enough to use for information. Anything you did know, Jiraiya is currently making it moot anyway. And, you hurt my team. Decisions. Decisions. As Haku arrived to the cabin, she heard the faint sounds of many birds chirping. Yu Gao walked into the dimly lit bar. It was the perfect spot for day drinking, dark, moderately spacious, and with a workforce and clientele that knew how to keep secrets. She just hoped her target was sober enough to be of use, or even mildly coherent. He was not a hard man to spot, even in a place as sparsely lit as her current location. He simply oozed a regal aura, fitting for the head of the Hyuga clan. What was unexpected was his company, several of the other clan heads. Yu Gao approached the shared booth and gave a slight bow when the clan leaders turned to her. "Forgive my intrusion, but may I have a brief word with you, Hyashi-sama?" "Yu Gao-san," Hyashi greeted, "unless it is Hyuga business, I am sure whatever you wish to discuss with me can happen right here." Hyashi offered. In truth, he was drunk and had no desire to leave his seat. "If you're sure," Yu Gao responded, and the man nodded while Choza offered her a seat. "I wish to ask you about your impression of Uzumaki Naruto-kun. I know Hinata and he are friends, and I was just wanted your opinion of him. What makes you so interested in the pup?" Sume asked in curiosity. Hyashi chuckled and said, "Careful, Sume. If Yu Gao-san answered that, she'd have to kill the majority of us at this table, and I like my head where it is. It makes me look regal. You get self-complimentary when you drink, Hyashi." "It's too troublesome," Shikaku observed. "Hyashi-san seems to know more than he should," Yu Gao stated. The directive given to the Anbu and Jiraiya was not widely spread to other shinobi, clan head or otherwise. How he knew of the Sandaime's orders to silence anyone that questioned, investigated, or implied anything remotely true about Naruto's heritage was to be removed with extreme prejudice. Some might say it is cruel to have such an order given to the most elite assassins of the village without informing anyone else, but the Sandaime reasoned if he didn't tell anyone not to look into Naruto's ancestry, they wouldn't question why they shouldn't. "I wish I could claim some stellar ninja tradecraft, but the Sandaime informed himself a few years ago." "Now, about Naruto-san," Hyashi started but was cut off. "He's an incorrigible pervert with designs on my baby girl," Inoiki complained. "And he even managed to win my wife over. I don't get how Hyashi allows him around Hinata so much. We should team up, Hyashi. Team up and save our little girls," Inoiki pleaded as he slammed his drink down. "The overprotective father thing would work better if you and my child weren't juvenile soldiers, Inoiki. Have some self-respect," Hyashi chastised. "Yes, there is a whole lot I can't protect my Ino-chan from, but boys? I can do that. And look, I wrote up the psychological profile on Naruto and it made me disgusted with this village for a very long time. He doesn't get my daughter's virginity because of it." "Shut the hell up, Inochi," Sume barked. "You can't decide who your kid sleeps with, when she chooses to, any more than you could decide her hair color. And if the genders were reversed you wouldn't even care." "I am comfortable in my hypocrisy," Inoiki said. "Typical male," the Inuzuka replied. "Troublesome. Hyashi, you haven't answered Yu Gao-san's question." "Right, sorry," the Hyuga apologized. Yu Gao waved him off. "Uzumaki Naruto, our greatest dishonor as a village and mine as a father. I owe the young man. He managed to get through to Hinata-chan when none of my methods worked." "You mean being a hard ass and then a harder ass?" Sume asked. "Yes. She's developed incredibly well since they became friends, and I worry about her less because of it. Am I thrilled that she has designs on a boy with a wandering eye? No, but I know better than to stand between a Hyuga woman and her desire. As for the boy himself, he is honest and polite, though never deferential. I trust if Hinata ever needed him for something he'd deliver it." "That must make you anxious given the old," Shikaku pointed to his forehead. And it did give Hyashi pause. He didn't know how good the Uzumaki was at seals as far as official ranking, but he knew the boy was incredibly skilled. The sole condition he put on Hinata's friendship with Naruto was that she did not try to get him to remove the caged bird seal. He remembered the visible pain in her eyes when she agreed to forego one of her sincerest desires. "A little," Hyashi said. "Kiba said the pup was kinda weird, like emotionless or something." "He has emotions," Inochi corrected. "I'm too drunk to go into it, but he has them. And we're lucky muted effect is all he has." Inoiki took 2 quick shots before continuing. "Damn kid deserved better. Cursed to have a father that loved the village more than him. Because he believed in the village that would let a no-name orphan be its leader. The will of fire. We pissed on it. Hold up, are you saying Tsume started, but Hyashi interrupted her before the only sober ninja among them, an Anbu no less, silenced her. He isn't saying anything, Tsume. Right, Inoiki? PFFT, whatever. If we'd done right, things would be different. If either of them were here, could come back and see what we caused. You couldn't dig the graves fast enough. A collective shudder was had by the table as they imagined chakra chains and teleporting ninja. Getting what she came for, even if it wasn't much, Yugao excused herself and left, resolving to never do that again. Haku looked at the flowers being presented to her, the assortment of red, yellow and orange meshed with the dusk setting. She also noticed the bouquet wrapped in sealing paper, her rudimentary knowledge telling her the seals had something to do with water. She concluded Naruto created some kind of hydrating seal, removing the need for a water-filled vase. As she reached for the flowers, her eyes moved away from the impromptu gift to the blue eyes of the gift giver. Some would call them blank, but she knew better. Free from judgment, yes, but never empty of meaning. Thank you, Naruto-kun. What have I done to receive such a lovely gift? Naruto squinted and leaned his head to the side. Haku assumed it was an expression of surprise. He likely hadn't thought she'd asked why she was receiving a gift. Hatake-sensei said I should come up with a way to reassure you that I am okay so you will be okay. It didn't shock the Hyotan user that he'd noticed her change in behavior. She knew Sai was right, she had been clingy as a way to manage her guilt. If she wasn't so insistent on not killing, she would not have left herself open to that arrow and Naruto wouldn't have been taken. I know you are, I'm sorry for crowding you, Naruto-kun. I do not feel crowded, though I do not know what it is to feel crowded. I do not mind you being close, Haku. And what happened was not your fault. I should have seen to our security and did not. I was negligent and we were ambushed because of it. I subsequently failed to get all responsible, but should the opportunity arise in the future I will not fail again. We all share responsibility, Naruto-kun, Haku countered. While he could have, placing down security seals post-mission would be paranoid in most situations. It was not unreasonable to think themselves far enough away from the base to be out of the range of retaliation, and with Jiraiya with them that'd scare off all but the most. Do you really believe that? Naruto asked, but it couldn't quell the realization Haku just had. Honestly, no. I was so used to seeing myself as a tool for Zabuza that being a friend is very new. You and even Sai-kun are dear to me, so if you are harmed it feels like I have failed my purpose. However, now I am wondering something else. Isn't it convenient those sound ninja attacked while Jiraiya was meeting a contact? Haku watched as Naruto squinted as he thought, quickly coming to the same conclusion she had. Jiraiya's contact sold us out. I think it is possible, the timing is too coincidental. And while I've heard of coincidence, I've never once seen it. Naruto didn't respond, but Haku knew it was because the next steps were obvious: alert Jiraiya and lay a trap for the burned contact. And as she'd changed topics, he wouldn't go back to her recent behavior. Thank you, Naruto-kun. You already thanked me for the flowers. Not for those, but they are lovely. Thank you for being my friend and never judging me. Thank you for accepting me, Haku said, but her words were hollow, a poor measure for how she was feeling. I hope Hinata-chan will forgive me, she spoke. Naruto was going to ask what she'd need forgiveness for, but before the words could leave his mouth, he felt two warm, moist lips on his own. It was over as fast as it began, but the Uzumaki was speechless. He felt an unfamiliar warmth in his face. Haku ran her hands through his spiky locks and giggled, turning away and walking toward the cabin. Not even Kakashi appearing beside him stirred the Jinan out of his trance. Your first kiss, and with a cutie no less. You do your sensei proud, Naruto-kun, Kakashi said, favoring his student with an eye smile. Naruto could only respond with a slight smile as his hand rubbed the back of his head. His only thought was that he should try to reassure his friends more often. A flutter of his eyes is how Konohamaru started the day. He looked out his window and could see it was still dark, just a little sunlight peeking over the horizon. The young Sarutobi yawned as he stretched his arms to the sky, then swiftly removed his blue and green comforter. It was time to start his day. Changing out of his monkey print pajamas, Konohamaru put on his navy blue training gi, sandals and headed outside. Konohamaru stared at his pre-dawn foe. The same one he faced every morning. He took up his stance, knees bent, back straight. He approached his enemy and proceeded to strike it relentlessly. The first task of his morning routine was hitting a training dummy, and Konohamaru was diligent in his practice. Rhythmic thuds could be heard as Konohamaru followed the striking progression his grandpa showed him, paying attention to his footwork as well. When he learned that no one woke up his Ni-chan every morning to train, it initially made him sad, but it also motivated him. He believed his Ni-chan must be really dedicated to wake up on his own and start his day. After that, the youngest Sarutobi resolved to do the same. It took time, but he got there, impressing his mother and grandfather both. After 45 minutes of non-stop striking, Konohamaru ends his session. He ignored the dull hum of pain he felt in his limbs. The pain, once being more pronounced, was only a minor annoyance. A quick shower and change of clothes later, Kono was seated at the breakfast table. His uncle Asuma was drinking tea, looking barely awake. That is, until an unexpected presence joined them. "Grandpa?" the academy student asked in genuine surprise. Normally, his grandfather would be already hard at work in his office. "Konohamaru-kun," Asuma, Hiruzen greeted with a kind smile. "Father, you playing hooky today?" "No such luck. I was invited to see a worksite today is all. I'll go to my office after that," the aged Hokage answered Asuma, mirth brimming in his eyes. It took Konohamaru a second to process Hiruzen's words, but when he did, a face-splitting grin adorned his face. "Really, Grandpa?" he asked in excitement and mild disbelief. He knew his grandfather was incredibly busy, so creating extra time for his family was difficult. While he missed him, and his mom, Konohamaru normally had his Ni-chan around to take some of the loneliness away, along with Moegi and Udon. However, even his extended absence had the young Sarutobi feeling a little down. Hiruzen recognized his grandson's emotional state, it resonating with him deeply due to how he'd failed Naruto. He promised himself to do better and made time for Kono. "Really? So eat up, I want to see this modern marvel my grandsons have concocted." Hiruzen smiled as his grandson ate as fast as he could while still adhering to proper table etiquette. As soon as he was done, he was rushing his grandfather out the door. So busy with his breakfast, and Hiruzen doting on Konohamaru, neither noticed the frown of Asuma when he heard his father mention seeing the work of his grandsons, plural. The two diminutive Sarutobis walked throughout the village. It was early yet, so most shops were just opening. All were delighted to see their Hokage and the honorable grandson and greeted them warmly. Hiruzen returned the gestures, but Konohamaru was silent. He used to hate being called the honorable grandson, wanting to be known as his own person. But when he walked with his Ni-chan, he saw how different they treated him. At least being called the honorable grandson was nice. They ignored his Ni-chan like they couldn't see him, like he wasn't worthy of their notice. It made the young boy angry and he wanted to blow up, to yell at them. He remembered once asking his Ni-chan if their treatment bothered him, if their lack of acknowledgement made him sad. He said, "You acknowledge me, so what more do I need?" and spoke no more on the matter. Konohamaru remembered how happy that made him, and while he would still be bothered by the village not treating his Ni-chan well, he wouldn't complain about what they called him. Honorable grandson was a challenge. When Konohamaru proved himself to be more than the Hokage's grandson, everyone would recognize him as such. Until then, he had his family and his Ni-chan. That was enough. The duo arrived to their destination, the nearly completed remodel of Naruto's apartment complex. The retail sections were already installed, as were many of the other amenities. Hiruzen smiled when he recalled the first time he visited the site with Kono-chan. His grandson insisted that, "No one gets on my site without a hard hat, Grandpa," and while it was silly for the god of shinobi to be overly concerned about falling debris, if Aniki couldn't kill him from the sky then a brick wasn't, he placated the littlest foreman in the land of fire. "You think Ni-chan will be happy?" Konohamaru asked. "I think he will be quite pleased and very thankful you kept the crews on task," Hiruzen said, rubbing Kono's head. The younger Sarutobi blushed at the contact and flashed a 1,000-watt smile. Konohamaru gave his grandfather a quick tour, as it was almost time for the academy to start. Hiruzen was impressed, taking apartments with exterior exits and building a complex connecting to the back of the original structure, leaving the possibility of erecting another tower of apartments at a later date. It was a wise investment and Naruto would do well because of it. So would Konohamaru, as unbeknown to him his brother had created a generous trust fund for him once he reached the age of majority. After the tour, in which Konohamaru even explained some of the ceiling used, in rudimentary terms, the pair parted. Noticing the time, Konohamaru darted toward the academy, not wishing to incur Iruka-sensei's wrath. Nearing his destination, the Sarutobi heir was confident he would make it on time by the slimmest of margins. His hopes were dashed when he heard the sounds of bullying not far from his location. He sighed, as intervening was going to make him late, but as the future Hokage it was his responsibility to look out for his people. Sometimes the will of fire was a pain. Konohamaru shimmed up a nearby tree and then, utilizing the steps of the silent killing method he'd learned, stealthily made his way to the group. Once in full view, Konohamaru frowned. It seemed Heike and his 2 lackeys were picking on a Hyuga. By all appearances, 1 year younger than them. If that wasn't enough to make him want to pound them, that these were the boys that insulted his Ni-chan surely did. While younger and outnumbered, the Hyuga girl didn't seem to care as she took up her stance, tired of the boys insulting her eyes. Look, the baby wants to fight. Guess she thinks because she comes from some big deal clan she can take us. Isn't that right, baby? Heike mocked, causing the girl to glare. As she was set to go on the offensive, her plans were interrupted by a blur coming from up above. Konohamaru, having had his fill of Heike's mouth, jumped down from the tree and chopped the boy on the back of his neck. Before the 2 lackeys, who had been on either side of Heike, could turn around, Konohamaru delivered 2 debilitating blows simultaneously to the kidneys of the hangers-on. They dropped immediately, passing out from the shock of the painful strikes. I could have handled them, the Hyuga stated, and Konohamaru rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. I'm sure you could have, Hyuga-san, but as the future 6th Hokage it's important I help out where I can. The Hyuga member wanted to scoff at the boy's pronouncement, but for some reason his bright smile was infectious and she couldn't. Hanabi-chan. A voice called out and the girl looked toward it. When she turned back around, the interloper, as she refused to consider him her savior, was gone as if he'd never been there. Hanabi-chan, you have to stop running off. Natsu, her caretaker, admonished. And did you attack these boys? Hiyashi-sama will not be pleased. I didn't do it, some boy did. But I was, since they were picking on me, Hanabi explained. Natsu nodded and watched as the boys returned to consciousness. You 3 are lucky you didn't touch Hanabi-sama. Attacking the clan head's daughter could cause the entire clan to retaliate. Do not do it again, Natsu warned, her bloodline activated and menacing glare in full effect. The boys paled and limped off. As the now identified Hanabi was informing Natsu of her brief run-in, Konohamaru was sneaking into class through the window. Either Udon or Moegi was kind enough to leave it open and Iruka had his back turned. Kono silently moved toward his chair, taking a seat without calling attention to himself. Just as he was about to relax, a piece of chalk rocketed toward him, hitting the Sarutobi dead between the eyes and knocking him back in his seat and to the ground. Ow, Konohamaru exclaimed. What's the big idea, Iruka-sensei? He asked as he got up, returning his chair to the upright position. The big idea, Konohamaru, is that you're late and instead of taking responsibility you tried to sneak in. It's almost as if I want to be a ninja, he said under his breath, but loud enough for Iruka to hear, causing the instructor to fling another piece of chalk toward the boy, hitting in the same location. Watch that smart mouth, speak quieter, or learn to dodge, Iruka advised. Konohamaru continued to mutter about his sensei, and it is only his long instilled discipline that allowed the academy teacher to continue his lesson plan, as a part of him wanted to inform Konohamaru that there was no way that could fit there and then wash the boy's mouth out for such language. When Heike and his crew walk in, the signs of them having been attacked are obvious. 2 of the boys are limping in pain and Heike looked glassy-eyed. It didn't take much for Iruka to conclude they did something, and Konohamaru attacked them again, though this time he seemed to come away unscathed from the encounter. Why are you 3 late? Iruka questioned, and their body language signaled they planned to lie. Tell the truth. We were just messing around and then someone jumped us from behind, Heike explained. Iruka narrowed his eyes at the brown-haired boy. And you didn't see who did it? All 3 shook their heads no. Well, regardless, you're late, so you'll be running extra laps during PT. Now, take your seats. The morning lessons continued without further interruption. Konohamaru liked Iruka-sensei but found the man's lecturing style to be boring. When he felt his concentration slipping, he practiced an exercise his mom taught him, a way to half pay attention to Iruka-sensei and absorb the lecture while discreetly scoping out the classroom. It was the most exciting place to surveil, as almost nothing changed, but it gave Konohamaru enough of a break so he could refresh himself. Before he knew it, lunchtime had arrived and the Sarutobi was thankful for the break. After getting their lunch trays, the Konohamaru corps decided to eat outside. As they enjoyed the midday weather, a yellow toad appeared on the table in a cloud of smoke. It was one of his Ni-chan's summons, Kono observed. Gamatatsu? Konohamaru asked in surprise. Hi, Konohamaru. Do you have any snacks? The little toad asked, causing the 3 students to form a sweat drop. Before that, did Ni-chan send you here for a reason? Oh, yay. He said he'd be back in 2 days. Now, can I have some snacks? Didn't Ni-chan already give you some in payment? Kono asked, knowing it to be the case. It doesn't mean I can't get more, Gamatatsu reasoned. Fine, you want to hang out until lunch is over? Kono asked, and the toad nodded in glee. The trio shared their lunches with the summons as they chatted about various topics. It was a pleasant lunch until it was interrupted by the last people Konohamaru wanted to deal with. "Hey," Heike shouted as he marched over to the table, flanked by his usual company. "It was you, wasn't it? You hit me before class and I got in trouble for it." "I don't know what you're talking about, Heike-san," the Sarutobi responded, feigning innocence. "Liar, it was you. Tell me why I shouldn't pound you into the ground?" Heike threatened as he arrived to his destination, having brought the attention of a crowd with him. "How about the fact he's already kicked your butt before?" Moigi questioned. The schoolyard bully's face went red. "That was luck. But you're accusing him of having done it again." "Twice isn't luck," Udon reasoned, angering the boy even more. No longer thinking, he lashed out and grabbed Konohamaru by the collar with one hand and lifted the other to strike him. The firm grip of Iruka-sensei prevented the punch from ever being thrown. "Go to the headmaster, right now," Iruka ordered, and then turned his attention to the rest of the students, "and all of you return to class." All complied except the Konohamaru core. Iruka saw the anger in the eyes of the Hokage's grandson, and he wanted to avoid Konohamaru lashing out or escalating things. "You did the right thing by not engaging with him, Konohamaru. Sometimes it takes more courage not to act. I'm proud of you." Konohamaru smiled at Iruka and gathered his things. "It's time to go, Gamatatsu, but I'll see you later." "Okay. Make sure to have more snacks," the glutton requested before disappearing. Kono simply shook his head at the weird, little toad. At least Gamikachi cared about more than just snacks. "Are you really going to let Heike get away with grabbing you, Kono-kun?" Moigi asked out of curiosity. "No. Iruka-sensei was right, it was the wrong time to act. Too many witnesses. Besides, one more beatdown wasn't going to solve the problem. I'll break that stupid jerk over time until he begs me to stop." "You have a plan?" Udon asked. "Not yet. But I will, and no one will be able to prove a thing, core." Jiraiya looked over his temporary team as they walked in the busy village streets. Since his lecturing to Naruto hadn't been successful, he decided to take a different tact. He worked his godson. Morning, noon, and night. The same for the other two, but he planned to really put Naruto through the ringer. What stood out to him most was that none of them complained or showed signs of discomfort. No frowns or grunts of exertion even when nearing exhaustion. It was maddening, as one of the perks of being a sensei is slightly torturing your students and reveling in their discomfort. When the physical exercises weren't enough, Jiraiya tossed in more sparring. The team against him, the team sparring themselves, and they sparring him individually, though that was mostly saved for Naruto. And yet, nothing. Even making Naruto increase his resistance seals at a higher rate only netted him a hum of acknowledgement. When just purely physical work didn't get the desired results, he made them expand their chakra manipulation. He had side drawing different beasts of different species and sizes as fast as he could for as long as he could. Haku was made to practice pulling water out of the air. Naruto was given a B-rank Katen jutsu and told to learn it without completing any of the nature transformation exercises. Sai increased the efficacy of his main jutsu, Haku expanded her chakra reserves while maintaining her control, and Naruto had a field-ready version of the fire technique. His intention was to impart the lesson to never cross or mislead him. That he'd work them into the ground if they did. But as the primary culprit remained indifferent to Jiraiya's lesson, all he'd really done is make them stronger, faster, and better. The little shits. Still, he felt pride in their growth. They would only be his temporary team, but it reminded him of his old team while being different enough to not hurt or fill him with regrets. "I'll get the rooms at the inn, check in by nightfall," Jiraiya ordered. They were on their last mission, escorting the Kazekage's children and Jounin Sensei to Konoha for the Chunin exams. He cautioned Naruto against revealing anything since they'd be competition. The blonde simply nodded but said nothing in response. Meeting them at the border had been a non-event as far as Jiraiya was concerned, though he found Baki a little stiff and the short child to be weird and intense. As Jiraiya made his way to the inn to secure the rooms, he simply couldn't know what his proximity to the Suna Jounin was doing to the semi-veiled man. Baki was a top man of Suna. Strong enough and trusted enough to steward the Kazekage's children through their paths of becoming ninja. He'd seen war, lost friends, and carried the regrets that came with their profession. He didn't scare easily. Raza-sama had his respect but did not invoke a sense of fear. Even Gaara was more a resigned wariness. But when he saw Jiraiya, the Toad Sage, was going to be his escort, he'd swore Suna's planned betrayal had been uncovered and the Sannin was there to kill them all. The trio of junior ninja that followed didn't help matters. They didn't talk. One of them was always smiling and the smallest one looked vaguely familiar. It set him on edge. To make matters worse, Baki knew if Gaara pulled any of his psycho nonsense with Jiraiya, the boy was going to get his head caved in and there wasn't much Baki could do about it. He'd defend his student and village asset with his life, but he had no need to sell himself on a false future. The outcome was known, the resistance offered a mere formality. In short, his life depended on Gaara acting somewhat normally. Even Tsunade Senju wouldn't take those odds. If he survived the exams and the invasion, Baki promised himself a 2-week vacation in a far-off oasis. As the Suna Jounin, and his most dangerous student, followed Jiraiya, the other kids were left alone. Haku was the first to speak, suggesting she go look for a suitable spot for an early dinner. Kankuro opted to go with her. He seemed a little eager in Naruto's opinion, not that he understood why he made the observation. As those two departed and Sai went off to do Sai things, which could include painting the landscape or assassinating someone for Danzo-san, Naruto simply walked up to the nearest person. "Excuse me, ma'am," Naruto interrupted. The woman looked down at the small boy and thought he was cute until she recognized his headband and stiffened just slightly. She'd never interacted with any of her country's ninja before, but she'd heard stories. "Yes? Do you know where the nearest bookstore is? And possibly somewhere to pick up a trinket for a 9-year-old boy?" Naruto asked. He noticed the smile had quickly left her face but was confused when he returned after his question. "Sure, sweetie. Just go down this main street and take the third left. We have a few shops for souvenirs or toys and a nice-sized bookstore at the end of the walkway." "Thank you, ma'am," Naruto said and then walked away. He noticed the Suna Kunoichi was following him. "Can I help you, Tamari-san? So you do speak? I was starting to wonder," she said sarcastically. She couldn't have known that Haku, Sai, and Naruto had been in constant communication, for them, using the communicator seal. "If you wanted to speak to me, Tamari-san, you could have simply spoke to me," Naruto reasoned and saw the cute girl blush a little. "That's fair. So, where are we going?" "I am in search of a book and a small item for my little brother." Tamari gained this fair-off look as she turned her head away from Naruto. "It's nice," she started, "to think about your little brother while on a mission. Not everyone would do that." Tamari thought Naruto didn't follow up on her statement out of a sense of decorum. In truth, he simply had nothing to add. As they passed by several shops, Naruto saw various toys that would appeal to a civilian but nothing that would interest Kono-chan. He saw some porcelain masks that looked vaguely similar to the ones the Anbu wear, but Kono-chan could get that from his Kana-san. Tamari watched as the sunshine blonde looked over the items. To a less astute person it would look like he was dismissing things without consideration, but she had a feeling the boy was doing the exact opposite. She watched him categorically reject a multitude of objects until he stopped rigid and pointed at something. "How much, sir?" Tamari heard him asked but didn't hear the price quoted back. The boy retrieved a frog wallet and gave a wad of Rio notes. The shopkeep put the item in the bag and finally she saw what garnered the Leaf Nin's approval, a pair of goggles. They were midnight blue, single lens. She had no idea why that was the right one but didn't bother to ask. After buying his item the boy continued along to the bookstore, Tamari right behind him. She was surprised to see him go straight to the self-help and relationship section, her mouth moving faster than her mind. "Are you in the right section?" she asked. "Yes," was the one-word reply. Like he did with the toys, her temporary companion breezed through multiple titles seemingly rejecting them. "What could you need from this section? You're pretty young to need a self-help book or one about relationships even." Naruto turned to her, his blue eyes peering into her teal orbs. "I received a kiss from a friend recently but am not sure why or how to gain another. I seek information to that end." Tamari was silenced by the response and Naruto took it as her being satisfied, so he resumed his search. Inwardly, Tamari fumed that this pipsqueak managed to get a kiss before she did. If the boys of her village were intimidated by her father, they were terrified of her brother. No one would even attempt to ask her out. Tamari felt she had to do something to salvage her self-esteem. "Maybe you're reading too much into it. One of your little friends got crazy and gave you a peck, I wouldn't think too much about it." "You're what, 12? It really wasn't that big a deal." "Yes, I am 12. Haku is 15. Even by your logic, her actions would be more considered than my own," Naruto spoke, never looking away from the bookshelf. He missed Tamari's reaction of irritation. Haku was the kunoichi of his team and the Wind Mistress could admit the girl was very pretty. Like, the embodiment of pretty. And she kissed this gaki? So, why not just ask her to be your girlfriend? Seems simple enough unless you're afraid. Naruto grabbed a book and headed toward the front, Tamari quickly following behind him. "If I ask Haku to be my girlfriend it would be inappropriate to receive kisses from other people, and yet there are multiple girls I would like to eventually kiss. I simply want Haku to kiss me, too." Tamari gained a tick mark as absorbed the Uzumaki's words. So annoyed she didn't fully notice they had left the stores until a breeze was felt on her skin. Are you some kind of heir or something? Tamari asked, trying to find a justification for what she read as arrogance coming from the boy. Both my parents are dead and left me an inheritance, so yes, I am an heir, Naruto answered, never breaking stride. Tamari flinched, wondering if she'd upset him. Sorry, didn't mean to offend you. I am not offended, Tamari-san. My parents died when I was very young and I've had years to accept it, Naruto continued, new destination in mind. So, they left you with a little brother to care for? She asked, remembering how she was expected to watch after Kankuro and little Gaara when her mom passed. No, my brother is not through biology. Oh, you were adopted. No, I was never adopted, Tamari-san. She winced. I'm really making an ass of myself, aren't I? She considered just going to the inn to escape the awkwardness. I am not familiar with this phrase, Tamari-san, but from your tone I assume it is not a good thing. No, it means I'm embarrassing myself and being a jerk. Naruto fully turned to look at the older girl in confusion. He really didn't know why she'd be embarrassed, but it would be rude to just dismiss it outright. Looking her over and noting current conditions, Naruto came to a conclusion. Oh, how have you embarrassed yourself? Did the breeze catch your skirt? Tamari blushed red at the question. No, you pervert. Why would that be your guess? I could see no other reason for your embarrassment, and many would be so if strangers got a look at their panties. Or proof you weren't wearing any. An embarrassed anger surged through Tamari as she protested, of course I'm wearing panties. Naruto nodded as he continued walking, but did think deeply about her words. Of course would imply the following words would be obvious. However, Hinata-chan had informed him she didn't wear panties, so it wasn't a given that all kunoichi did. Naruto reasoned it was possible Hinata-chan hadn't told him the truth in an attempt to make a joke or prank him. There was really only one way to know, and as he'd already quoted her his charge for medical services, he'd only have to find a reason to provide them. Naruto continued to consider his dilemma as Tamari and he entered a small tavern. Tamari, still embarrassed, never asked how Naruto knew to come here as the rest of his team and Kankuro were already seated. She noticed her brother looked sad for some reason. When the brother and sister pair made eye contact, they asked simultaneously, "What's wrong with you?" Each answering just as fast, "I'll tell you later." Tamari's blush continued to recede while Kankuro's look of depression remained the same. Dinner came and went. Haku made sure to get takeout for the three that hadn't joined, and well before nightfall the ninja arrived at the inn. After checking in with Jiraiya, Naruto went to the roof to read, not wanting to show Haku his new purchase. Sai followed his friend, wanting to work on his own side project. Haku stayed in their shared room while Tamari and Kankuro adjourned to their own, with a silent Gaara sitting and staring at nothing in particular. Okay, we're alone now, Kankuro. What happened? The leaf kunoichi. I was giving her my grade A stuff, my best material, and she just turned me down flat. You're depressed because a girl you meet hours ago didn't fall for your crappy pickup lines? Seriously? Tamari asked in disbelief. She's so hot. Was Kankuro's defense. She's somewhat attractive, don't overstate things, Tamari retorted carelessly. When she reconsidered her words, she wondered why she was running down a girl she'd already, internally, admitted was incredibly pretty. She's a smoke show, and that's a fact. Tamari, I'm in love. You're both annoying, Gaara finally spoke. He'd love to threaten to kill them, he'd love to simply kill them and be rid of their company, but Baki made it clear that should he indulge in any such activities before the exam, the tall Konoha ninja would execute him without fail. Something even his father would have difficulty with. It set Gaara on edge, and Mother was being uncharacteristically quiet. He didn't like it, any of it. He decided to go to the roof to be alone before he killed someone by accident. Couldn't you just ask? Sai posed his question as he applied his oil-based paint the canvas. One of the benefits of having a seal master for a friend was it made packing his art supplies easy and convenient. I considered that approach. I concluded that much like my offers to have sex at a future date, it may be indelicate to simply ask. It also feels cumbersome, Naruto answered while reading the introduction to his new book, Escalation of Affection, a treatise on the transition from platonic to romantic love. Cumbersome? Sai asked as he thought about the dilemma. Are you concerned about rejection? Was her unprompted willingness causal in your enjoyment? It is not a variable I can rule out, but as I was taken by surprise and only have one case, data is limited. Still, we must consider that you not only want future kisses but you want Haku to want to kiss you. Are you sure this is worth it? Sai asked earnestly. He hadn't gotten his friend's interest in this realm of human expression. It seemed like more trouble than it was worth. I would be vehement in my assurance that it is, T-by-O, Naruto answered, muttering the last part. Neither boy was alarmed when the redhead Chunin ninja arrived on the roof. He took to one corner and made no effort to converse with them, so they let him be. As late evening transitioned into early night, Sai packed up his materials and went back to the room. Naruto resolved to stay, utilizing a flashlight to continue reading. In the back of his mind he resolved to find a way to read in the dark without need of a set appliance. Gaara had come to the roof to be alone, but once he arrived his attention fell onto the two boys there already. They felt empty and it bothered him. He was not used to apathy and it made him wonder if these people were simply good at masking their intent to harm him. Seeing that the blonde was going to stay, he decided to approach him. "Why do you feel empty?" "I don't know what that means," Naruto said as he continued reading, but found the question odd. "You have no emotions, not in the entire time you've been in my presences have you shown any? Is this a trick by my father to lower my guard? It will not work. I thought shinobi were meant to not show emotions. Logically, if you're surrounded by those that do, they must be inferior, and your question should be why they emote, not why I do not. Secondly, I do not take orders from your father or any non-leaf ninja not given authority by the Hokage and the daimyo. Finally, the state of your guard is your concern. Getting you to Konoha unharmed is mine." Gaara paused. He wasn't sure what to do. His father barked orders and made threats, and almost no one else spoke to him, so someone calmly rebutting him in a rational way was a new experience. He wasn't sure if he liked it. He almost walked back to his corner of the roof, but that felt like a retreat, as if he'd been bested by this boy. He was Gaara of the desert, that would not be allowed. He zeroed in on what the blonde was reading. It appeared to be a book about relationships. He wanted to scoff. He was just like everyone else, attempting to validate his existence through others. The strong only needed to love themselves. "Why do you read such drivel?" Gaara asked, a sneer on his face. "To seek information I do not currently have." "Have you read this book? What makes it bad?" Once again Gaara was confused by the response. "Of course not, I have no need. I love only myself and vow to kill all threats to my existence. It's the only validation I need." Gaara waited to hear the empty-headed retort about the value of love. "How will you know you aren't a brain in a vat?" Naruto asked. "What? If you isolate yourself, how do you know all of reality as you experience it is real? You could be a brain in a vat and this is just a simulation. Or a complex genjutsu. You'd just be killing fictional people. So, you wouldn't have validated anything, really?" Gaara stared at the Uzumaki in complete silence. He had no response. He didn't know how to feel about the leaf Nina at all. Was he real? Was this all fake? How could he possibly know? Could anything be known? What even is knowledge? If this were all some simulation, why people hate him? Why have his family abandoned and try to kill him? Gaara felt unmoored as he returned to his room holding his head. Mother was still silent, so he was alone with his thoughts for the first time ever. As he entered the room he saw his brother and sister. Or were they? The room was spinning and Gaara felt unwell. As he slumped down on the floor he could only ask his siblings one question. "Am I real?" Naruto didn't think much of Gaara's hasty exit. He, too, disliked much of the philosophy he read as he found it ponderous and unsuited to falsification. When his Oji-san posed that problem to Naruto he thought about it for several days. When he finally responded, he said that whether reality was simulated or not was moot as it was real to him, as he had no way to break free. As such, it made sense to simply accept this shared reality, as he lacked the ability to stop things existing with just his own volition. He recalled his Oji-san smiling and telling him it was a good answer. Now, however, a different sort of philosophical problem vexed Naruto and he wished it was easily resolved as the last. The block likely held the key to progress that had been long delayed. But, conceptually, he simply couldn't accept the premise. Things either are or they are not. The cat cannot be both alive and dead simply because no one knows it. That's not how things work. He wondered how his father managed to accept such absurdity. "As I am sure you know, it is time to nominate teams to participate in the Chunin exams," Hiruzen stated to the room of collected Jounin sensei. Each high ninja listened to their leader while also looking at the stats of their students, the security checks having progressed enough to give even the Genin their own Fūn bracelets. Because Hiruzen had objective measures he was able to instill some baseline requirements. If the Genin weren't at a certain level of fitness and mental capability then they could not be considered and those Jounin sensei weren't invited to the meeting. The Hokage was somewhat surprised all three of the rookie teams managed to meet the cutoff, though Team 10 just barely passed. Still, it would be a good showing if several clan heirs did well in the exams. And, of course, his grandson. He hadn't gone this long without seeing Naruto-kun and the old man miss their talks. As he waited for each Jounin to announce their decision he noticed HS Ninja, while giving him due attention, were all shooting looks at Kakashi. Hiruzen could not blame them as the infamous tardy ninja arrived early. Curbing his tardiness was one of the many changes Kakashi displayed since his last mission and return. Tsunade, using Naruto's initial report, confirmed that Kakashi was experiencing a chemical imbalance but not just from the Sharingan. Kakashi was clinically depressed and by all appearances had been for years. Tsunade lost it. The procedure for diagnosing depression was well known, and while mental illness was a taboo among the general ninja corps, the same should hold true for medics. After figuring out a treatment regimen for Kakashi, she mandated a continuing education seminar for the entire medical staff on psychiatric medicine. While Kakashi was still adjusting to the medication, the man was becoming an active participant in his life again. Training a little more, going out with the other rookie sensei, and Guy, and no longer standing in front of the memorial stone were just a few of the behavioral alterations. Hiruzen was glad to see the young man doing better but wished he'd been more diligent in getting Kakashi help instead of letting him work through his grief. That had been the wrong way. Hiruzen resumed his focus, not surprised the rookie sensei nominated their teams. It makes sense to take advantage of the home field advantage, and while Hiruzen doubted all of them were ready to be Chunin, the exams could highlight areas they needed to work on and introduce them to a level of pressure and conflict they may not have been exposed to. The Sandaime dismissed all present, save Kakashi. Naruto-kun returns today. Whichever iteration of your team shows up, you have necessary dispensation, the Sarutobi leader informed his ninja. Understood, Hokage-sama. I highly doubt the entirety of my team won't show up, Kakashi reassured. And about that other thing? I still believe you do not need to pull Naruto from Team 7 permanently. They don't have the cohesion of other teams, but they can develop it given time, and if Naruto makes Chunin, he can lead them as a triad while I do something else. I understand, Kakashi. It gives no pleasure to do this to your team, but with Orochimaru's interest in the Akatsuki, I can't have Naruto distracted with interpersonal matters. It also may be a bad idea to have our Jinchuriki with the sole loyal Uchiha on one team. They make prime assassination targets, especially as Naruto's heritage is becoming more known. I'd die before I let something happen to them. Admirable, but I'd rather avoid that being necessary. You have many years ahead of you, Kakashi. Your task is to look for reasons to live, not die. Not until you're old and can do so surrounded by those that love you. That's a good death. Yes, Hokage-sama, Kakashi answered, leaving once dismissed. Kurenai arrived at Team 8's training grounds, instantly gaining her students' attention. Hinata and Shino waited silently, but her brash student couldn't help but speak. You're late, Kurenai-sensei, he remarked while petting Akamaru. Yes, I am, Kiba-kun. Hokage-sama requested an audience with me and several others. During this meeting, I nominated you for the Chunin exams. Here are your forms, she explained. Whoa, really? You think we're ready to be Chunin? Kiba asked. Kurenai had anticipated the question and was therefore ready with an answer. Do I believe any of you are ready to fulfill the totality of the responsibilities of being a Chunin? No. But if that were the standard, most people wouldn't be Chunin until their 20s. It is a position you learn and grow into. Do I believe each of you have some of the skills necessary to allow you to survive and flourish as Chunin? Yes. And I certainly believe you have the skills to do well during these exams. I would not have nominated you if I didn't. Each student nodded, feeling more confident about attempting the promotional exam. Now, you each have a week to decide if this is for you, and if you decide it is not, there is no harm done. I will tell you, each rookie team and Mito Guy's Team 9 has also been nominated, so keep that in mind. Any questions? Her 3 students answered in the negative. Well, no training or missions for the rest of the week. Follow the instructions on the applications if you decide to entire. Saying her piece, Kurenai departed. Asuma's arrival awoke his 2 ninja, and he almost decided against telling them about the nomination. Ino was hanging upside down from a tree branch doing sit-ups. Her transformation had been surprising and gratifying. Seeing how much she'd progressed in just a few months made him wish he'd pushed them harder from the start. On paper, the Sarutobi knew his was the weakest team in terms of straight combat, but he hoped their teamwork would pull them through. You've been nominated for the Chunin exams. They start in exactly 1 week. If you want to participate, follow the directions on the applications. Troublesome, do we have to? No. This is optional, Shikamaru, but most Junon consider it an honor to be nominated. Especially as a rookie. Team activities are suspended for the time being. Good luck. Sasuke barely paid attention to Kakashi when he informed them about the Chunin exams or that Naruto would be back to take it with them. He didn't care about a nominal promotion, rising up the ranks wasn't one of his goals. But the exams could show how much he's improved or challenge him to grow even stronger. He knew they were not a normal team, and there was a reason Naruto was the one pulled away, It was a sign the Hokage, Kakashi or both thought Naruto was so ahead of them that they held him back. That realization burned the Uchiha to his core, as his pride was one of the few pillars he had to prop himself up. That very pride had been shaken during his time as a Chunin. Not only Naruto outshining him but also almost dying. That he'd been willing to sacrifice his life and his dream for a teammate didn't surprise him, but it put into sharp relief if he didn't get better quickly he may not live to face Itachi. A part of him wondered if being on a team had made him less diligent, more comfortable with the status quo. He had to get revenge, to bring Itachi to justice. But he would not become like Itachi in order to do so. That meant he had to get stronger, and the Chunin exams was just the place to do so. Sakura was in the midst of a surprising revelation of her own. Not until Kakashi-sensei assured them that Naruto would take the exam with them did she feel confident enough to truly try. She didn't think she was ready to be a Chunin but felt she could do well with her entire team. It was weird, her feelings for Sasuke-kun had been such strong motivation that it initially puzzled her. But she was too smart to stay unaware, conclusions coming as swiftly as the questions that spurred them. She admired Sasuke-kun. Believed in him. But she also realized his mentality was one that took on challenges head-on, committed to overcoming them with his abilities. This meant if you weren't up to his level then his way could leave you out of your depths. She didn't think he was indifferent to her welfare, him jeopardizing his life to save her is testament to that. He simply didn't consider the consequences of his approach. Naruto was different. He looked for ways to make every situation more favorable to him, to the team. His primary weapon was his intellect. Problems were broken down, recontextualized or reshaped until he had the greatest advantage. She felt much more secure with that approach. He wasn't weak, but he didn't seek every instance to prove his strength. Sasuke-kun may lay down his life for her, but Naruto would do his best to make sure it didn't come to that, and ultimately, she didn't want a martyr. The two boys presented such stark paths to be a ninja, and she didn't feel she was close to either, skill-wise. But where Sasuke-kun's way made that reality glaringly obvious, Naruto's was more inclusive. She didn't feel useless, just not quite there, yet. She hoped Sasuke-kun would listen to Naruto if the situation called for it. She hoped she'd have the courage to back Naruto if it came to it. Baki waited for his check-in to be completed. Waited and watched. Konoha had a reputation for being the good and kind shinobi village. It was pure hogwash, uncut propaganda meant to drum up business. Every other ninja village knew this, accepted it as holy writ that Konoha lies. And yet, it is so easy to be lured by that lie, seduced by its simple charms. Baki had been so worried about Jiraiya he didn't even pay attention to the younger ninja with him. But how could he know Jiraiya was assigned a team of demons? Oh, those blank faces hid their true nature well, but Baki was a seasoned veteran. He'd seen evil, done worse, and knew the depths of human depravity had no bottom. But at least everything he'd ever done gave his victims a fighting chance. Not these devils. One conversation is all it took to turn his violently psychopathic Jinchuriki into a dyed-in-the-wool nihilist unconvinced anything around him mattered. Baki would never forget the experience of being pulled from sleep by a wild-eyed Gaara informing him God was dead and that they had collective killed him. He didn't even know Gaara believed in God. Broken. The blonde devil broke Gaara. Then there was Kankuro. The once cocksure youth was depressed over the kunoichi. In what must have been the most interesting deployment of a honeypot in shinobi history, the girl managed to seduce his student without actually showing the least bit of interest in him. This, too, had something to do with the blonde one. Constantly, Kankuro would look at the object of his affection, then at the small blonde before asking to marry him? In total denial. She would nod and Kankuro would sink further into his depression. The blonde had to be some T&I prodigy meant to mindfuck the competition before the exams. Those cold blue eyes were reminiscent of something, and Baki wondered if he buried the memory because it was simply too evil to remember. Lastly, was Temari. His sane, strong, dedicated, and sane kunoichi. She often made him proud, made her village proud. Baki thought she'd escaped the impact of the three devils. Her mental fortitude too high, her will too strong to fall for their games. But he'd been wrong. As the blonde, manipulation prodigy, worked her over right before his eyes. Temari-san, Naruto said, looking at the Suna kunoichi in the eyes. He really liked her eyes. Yes? I am aware you are here for the Chunin exams. Should you find yourself with a little free time, would you like to visit with me? He asked. Temari was a little surprised by the question. She hadn't thought she'd made that good of an impression when they talked. The wind mistress didn't know why, but she looked over to Haku to gauge her reaction and smothered a frown at what she saw. The not all that pretty girl was smiling. Smiling as if it didn't matter if the Suna ninja spent time with Naruto, she couldn't possibly compete with little Miss Perfectly Symmetrical over there. The silent arrogance was galling to Tamari. Before she could answer, she was stopped by a screaming child. "5 Konohamaru yelled as he dove toward his brother, being caught mid-air. "You're back." "Yes, as I informed you I would be," Naruto answered and then positioned Kono-chan onto his back. "Sorry, Tamari-san, this is my little brother," Naruto explained. And Baki didn't bother to fight his grimace. Oh, the monkey god was thorough. Using Tamari's strained relationship with Gaara to manipulate her was low, and by all appearances it worked. He saw the wistful look on her face, the unspoken regrets that pulled at his own sense of shame. "Oh, so this is him?" "Yes. Kono-chan, this is Tamari of Suna." "Hi, Tamari-san. I'm Konohamaru. Your eyes are really pretty, core." Baki didn't see how the interaction concluded, having to follow Jiraiya to the Hokage's tower, but he didn't need to. He hadn't prepared his team for this kind of combat, he didn't think he had to. Not yet. He'd been wrong. Baki wouldn't know how correct he was until hours later in their hotel room when Gaara, waving around an infamous orange book, demanded they have the talk. He really needed that vacation.